Garnet Lee, welcome to One Up Yours for Friday, May 23rd. And we haven't done it in a couple of, wow, Shane, you're already yawning.
This is the time of day when the jet lag hits me, dude. If I fall asleep during this podcast, I said, wake me up.
All right, so let me tell you what, we got the crew here in full effect. That's Shane yawning, freshly back from parts of Europe. Sean Elliott is here across from me, and then next to me on my left is Mr. John Davison from What They Like.
Play.
Well,
either.
Whatever.
Likes the company, plays the site.
From asyoulikeit.com.
From as you like playing.
Should I register that one as well?
You probably should.
It's very British.
As you like it.
Play what you like playing.
I can tell you what I don't like playing. Can I start?
We can hold on.
Can I go first?
Hold horses 1 second.
Oh, come on, it's all bubbling up inside me.
All right, so here's the plan for today. First and second segments are all about the games that we've seen because now we can go through a whole bunch of stuff. Third segment is news. We're going to catch up. We're going to do NPDs, and now we're going to roll right through it. And John's going to tell us about she doesn't like.
Haze.
Surprise.
Oh, shit.
Haze sucks. And I will admit, I have only played an hour, but that's not
the only hour you're going to play?
It's not for want of trying. I got to an hour, and I can't deal with it anymore. I just can't do it.
The Nectar, it does nothing.
There's
It
a
does
problem with
nothing.
starting off any discussion of a game that way, and it's like there's already a dozen people typing, oh, you got to get to the 8th level, or you got to play for 9 hours.
But it just didn't grab me at all. I think the concept is clumsy, the script is terrible, the acting is appalling. It doesn't look that great. It stutters. The graphics are really inconsistent. Nice smoke though.
Would four-player co-op make
Little round of applause for the smoke in Haze, everybody. It's not all
well,
bad.
The haze in Haze.
The Haze in Haze is very good.
But what about four-player co-op? Would that make it four times?
I haven't tried. I have no desire because it. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that the scripting and story parts are so bad because this is the same group that did Second Sight, and that was actually regarded as a pretty good combination of narrative and action game, right?
I think where this gets really hung up is it's trying to be sci-fi as social commentary. You know, it's all about the imperialistic fascist oppressors going in and going into the countries and killing the little people, and there are these really clumsy scenes where there's these the script on the soldiers is just terrible, and he's like, yeah, we stormed into this thing and we killed a bunch of open hands, and the guy's like, well, what's that? Open hand is just another way of holding a gun, they just haven't picked it up yet. I'm like, come on, fuck off, that's terrible.
But John, you haven't even gotten to the part where you realize that working for the government is wrong and you join the bad guys.
Well, yeah, because maybe I wasn't paying attention 5 years ago, or whenever it was that they first showed this damn thing. But I always thought that there was a drugs message in here as well, and that you were kind of juicing the soldiers, and the nectar was because when you do the nectar and it lets you heal faster, and suddenly all the bad guys glow orange so you can shoot them, and it's whatever. But what I thought was that if you use the drugs a lot, that would impact the story, and if you chose to not use the drugs, it would affect.
No. If you just use too many at once, you kind of overheat or something, right?
Yeah, and it goes a bit wobbly and fuzzy, and that's pretty much all that happens.
And they've already revealed far in advance of the game even coming out that the big reversal in the game is that you kick the drugs,
right?
Yeah,
and then you see, and then of course what the drugs
are doing. You see the world for what it really is,
right? I mean that they're desensitizing you to. But
well,
conceptually,
it's sort of a reverse hallucination. Instead of hallucinating horrific images, you're hallucinating a nicer version of the world than it really is.
Right.
So my initial impression was, okay, so if you stop using the drugs, you eventually start to see the world for what it is. No, you just have to walk through the trigger point in the doorway to suddenly be in the same where it's like, oh, you mean this room that was completely empty actually has dead bodies everywhere? And it was just like, ugh.
Just clumsy. It's sad because it's an interesting idea.
It's a really good idea.
They're also taking fundamental shooter mechanisms and writing them into their story. And one would be in every game that you play, not everyone, but for the most part, you walk over and you pick up a health pack or something glowing, and then mysteriously, you're better all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And kind of taking, I wish I could talk more about Battlefield Bad Company, but that's a feature in it is that you heal yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's the whole way you're like, okay, so Haze is the game that actually realized this is ridiculous and let's do something with that from a
Yeah, I mean,
a
just
plot.
you doing things in the environment is you you don't hit a button to flick a switch. You you kind of press a button to make your hand the tool, basically. And then if there's a lever that needs pulling towards you, then you kind of pull back on the stick like you're kind of heaving against it.
Does it feel good or does it feel clumsy?
It takes a little getting used to. And then it has 6-axis, like, oh, you're on fire. Shake the 6-axis to make it go out. There's... And
Stop, drop, and roll.
And then it has vehicles in it, which, I think we're all conditioned to the Halo vehicles in first-person shooters and the controls and the way that it feels and the way the camera works, and there's a sense of weight and inertia that's different from when you're running around as Master Chief. Well, in this, the vehicles are it's the exact same camera and the exact same controls, only you can see the vehicle you're in the middle of the screen. And then there's a lot of just like things that you don't expect from a next-gen game, like dead bodies disappear within a couple of seconds. If you're in a vehicle and it explodes, then another vehicle mysteriously appears out of nowhere 20 feet in front of you, and you just run into that. And so it's like, and it's not making any like concessions for. It's not even saying, "Oh, we're being video gamey," and look, we broke the fourth wall there, and it's just old school. Okay, now it's round the corner. There's another one. There you go.
So it truly is below average, because some people are feeling that just backlash because Ubisoft had hyped it up for so long and it was an exclusive. And then some people were saying it really isn't that much worse than, say, a Turok, which got like 7s and 8s, which was uninspired. But Haze is seeming like it's actively.
Turok was uninspired,
bad.
But I think it was consistently. It was consistent with itself. I think the thing with this is that for the first 5 minutes of the game, you don't do anything. It's trying to do the Halo narrative through first person, but it completely steals control from you entirely, and you're just watching these characters that are really badly voice acted. Like
how bad? I mean,
it's just like real clumsy, like not very bright sounding Southern guy, and cliche Sergeant Major kind of shouty guy, and it's just like, I'm sat there playing it in the living room, my wife's off on the side, and she's like, what are you watching?
And you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it just, a lot of it just seems really gratuitous,
Soldiers, move out!
Like Greg Seward summarized it for us as all the language is like listening to a trucker who used to be a sailor.
Well done, Suey. That's awesome.
That sounds like what you're saying about Second Sight. I think people responded to the ideas and the concepts in that game, but agreed that the execution was what was lackluster. And it's like they start from an excellent idea, and they just don't deliver on it.
And the execution just doesn't deliver on it.
It's kind of a bummer too. This would be my excuse to talk about PsyOps, because that came out at the same time as Second Sight, and I was like, I don't want to bring this up because there was so much unrealized potential in that game that I was waiting for next gen to come around and pick it up. But even the very like notion that you look at someone on the screen and then you like occupy their mind, you take them over.
I was shocked that Midway didn't try and develop that franchise, because it wasn't hugely successful, but everyone that played it loved it. And it was that and Second Sight were very similar conceptually, but I always thought PsyOps was the better game.
It was more fun to play, and it had a ludicrous story that turned into some bizarre alien Tomb Raider shit at the end.
Yeah.
And then maybe PsyOps had the better, like the cleaner execution of ideas, but it wasn't anywhere near as fun to play.
Yeah.
But the combination of those powers, and there were so many.
And they were doing stuff with the physics that, the next game that does anything quite like it, I guess, is Force Unleashed. Has the same kind of, being able to move anything around the environment and do things with people and use objects as tools and stuff. But
that horrible game Infernal was the last one that came out for PC, and it was I'm not sure who published it, but it was like some German-made game. But that had some of those, similar notions of,
So the one that Jeff was playing, he would stand in the middle of a room getting shot at and never
over
die.
And over, and impossible to die. Yes, it was a bummer that, like, if anyone's looking to that and saying, we shouldn't try that. But imagine, like, a real competent studio taking and making the kind of game where you can control the enemy, It's like all of a sudden, boom, there's a, like in PsyOps, there's a sniper up here. Take over him, snipe the guy next to him, but then everyone comes for you before you have a chance to have the last bit of fun and jump him to his death off of the guard tower or something onto something, and then switch to someone else. Ooh, so much fun.
Well, I'm shocked that I can't remember who it was at Sony. It was either Jack or maybe Scott or Peter Dilley or someone was like, they were talking about the big tentpole products for PS3 this year, and that it was Metal Gear obviously, and Little Big Planet and Resistance, and then they listed Haze as the first one of those, and I'm shocked that.
I think part of it is probably trying to make nice with Ubi somewhat.
For doing it exclusively?
Yeah, I mean, because Ubisoft's been a real powerful partner on Xbox all along, and this was like a little olive branch, but wrong game.
Yeah, it didn't work.
What do you think
Backfired.
the story is behind its like sudden exclusivity? Because originally it was announced for PC as well as 360. And do you think it was a way to get an infusion of like investment money or something?
I would.
I mean, there's
expect
a television commercial that is obviously paid by Sony. It's a PlayStation 3 commercial for it. Yeah, or at least partially paid for.
I think that's more than an ample time on
plenty.
Haze. Yeah.
Yeah.
No
but
one
having
was-
playing that and GTA concurrently, it really shows you that good acting and good scripting makes a huge difference.
Who'd have thunk it? What else have you been up to?
GTA and Boomblocks again. I know I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but they've been the two that I've been playing.
Broken record.
Sorry. GTA is a big game.
So is Boomblocks, shockingly.
It is, actually. It's got like 300 levels, right?
Yeah, if I had been playing, I mean, I would be the same broken record. I mean, not Boombox. I'd just be talking about Grand Theft if I had been playing stuff on my own this week. So no argument there. Sean, Shane, what do you guys want to talk about? What have you guys been up to?
You want to go, Shane?
I mean, I wasn't on last week, so I'm going to be talking about stuff I played at those press events.
Right, yeah, me too.
A week and a half again.
Yeah, we can roll through that. I mean, we've got Sony, we've got Sega.
Right.
We've
But
got,
if anybody has any
Let me do
really,
mine since it's
like
non-press, and then you
like
guys
modern
can-
games, go for
Okay,
it.
so mine will be fairly quick. I can't talk. It's like embargo stuff. Next week I'll be able to talk about Dawn of War 2. I can't wait
Right,
to talk
should be
about
cool.
it. Stalker Clear Sky, they came in and showed it. Again, I really want to talk about that, especially in.
Is that an expansion or a full-on?
It's a full standalone game, yeah,
wow.
with some really, really significant.
Now, is this the one they're going to do on
updates.
consoles as well?
I haven't heard any word of
Okay.
that. They seem really to be GSC Game World seems to the guy, the producer that came out and talked to us is like, we make games for Ukrainians and Russians, and that was really interesting. I mean, why the game is so different in character than every other shooter, and I'm glad that they're doing that. I look forward to playing it for that reason. And then other stuff, it's like I'm playing Bad Company for review, not able to talk about that yet. And then I know there's something else that's like I'm sitting on until next week. But I've been playing some Age of Conan, the MMORPG that came out.
With the hot tits.
It's not so hot. It's like big tits and burlap sacks when you start the game. It's like because everyone is wearing loincloth gear, or it might be made of a crocodile hide or something. And yeah, if you're a woman, you can get some sizable males.
Really fucking violent as well. My God, for an MMO.
The first thing you see in the game is like a half-naked woman tied up, just to some rocks or something, and like with their legs spread and her arms out wide, and yeah, it's just a violent game. The interesting thing, I mean, I'm still playing it, so I'm like learning. Figuring out how much I like it, but I'm on a PvP free for all server, and the thing there is it means that for most of the world, it's unlike World of Warcraft PvP servers where you can't fight people in your own race. Like you could fight anyone.
So it's just a bloody chaos.
As it's shaking out, these
the
first few
instances are
weeks,
different, right? Can't you you like instance night raids, and you can invite just as many people as you want into them, right?
No, what they do is they have a night is the equivalent of single player content. Day is multiplayer. So if you say I want to go and level and I'm just going to do the night stuff and it's just you, and I'm kind of annoyed with that because it's much easier and it's like a surefire way to rapidly grind your character. Like if you are saying I want to hit 10 because that's the next big waypoint where you develop extra skills and then you can go and to other parts of the world.
What you can do on your own though, right? At like 20.
I think it does. I haven't got that far.
Okay.
But I really don't like the fact that it's easier and that you get the better items in the night because I really have no interest. It's like all MMOs, it's just not good enough of a game to... I mean, they're MMOs for a reason, so you can play with other people, and they're not that good single player. But it's just been fun so far, like going into any area and just waiting to ambush people and seeing the people that I play with who are now higher levels. They got like war mounts, like these mastodons and stuff, and they just tell people that they have to give them their loincloths if they want to cross a bridge or if they want to come to an island. They make them like you got to grovel and like don't look at me, like you have to avert your gaze and just all this ridiculous stuff. You guys are all serious, but it's more like
dude. He was talking about griefing people like as they spawn into the world after just creating a character.
You do, yeah. When you're in that game, I mean, the moment you spawn, you want to, if you're a character that can cloak, you want to cloak immediately because you'll be killed on sight. So that will change.
It's a nice welcome into the.
Sounds
welcome
like
to
a really fun game.
Yeah.
Welcome to Age of Conan. You are dead.
What'll happen is over time that'll settle down and people will end up having alliances and stuff. And already you'll see like if Rory and Duncan are going and just beating people over and over again, and every time they spawn, they just keep on killing them. Then all the low noob level guys will all gang up, and then like whatever, and ants or something fighting the grasshoppers or something, and then they'll all go and gang up on them. Later on, I guess that'll change. The other thing I wanted to talk about, we just saw Indiana Jones
and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull today, and it's not now playing, but I wanted to talk about it just because I see that whole movie when I watched it as being, what I called structurally and conceptually based on video games. And
well, that is weird in modern movies. Like, remember Star Wars Episode 2, like the Mega Man 2 level at the end where Padme is like going through gears and jumping over things. There's like a lava pit, a bat flying by. Yeah.
So there are specific things like that.
Same thing.
It's a one-to-one transition. They're monster closets in the movie where guys spawn in. They're platforming sequences.
Yep.
There's stuff that could be from Assassin's Creed, free running on beams and stuff.
There's an awesome on-rails driving scene.
But more important than that, though, and that was bad. And you know what's so blurry is that the whole time I was watching that driving action scene, I was wishing there was a controller in my hand to press like a button to skip the cutscene on, because like I didn't want to see that anymore. And the reason because is that, the important thing about this movie is that it's inspired by old action serials and stuff, and everyone's going to say, well, you got to know the source material. You have to know what the homage is. It's like, I do understand it, but the difference is that even those hokey shows could convey a sense of peril where, like, this protagonist can clearly, survive insane odds, but there's still a sense of peril. But there's absolutely none for any principal character in this movie. There's never any doubt that that someone's not going to escape, some impending doom or something. So that's why I didn't care. I was like, I know what the outcome of this is. Well, this is just going on and on.
I noticed there were scenes where like one of the key party members would disappear, and you think, hey, where'd they go? But then they're just there to rescue them, and then like 10 seconds later they show up to rescue them.
And the way that they show up reminded me of a video game too, because when you're playing most games, like a Half-Life or something, as long as you're just moving, you're going in the right way, and you're going to end up where you want. So if it's like, hey, we need to go and find, this antlion cave, if you just keep walking, you'll, of course, end up in the antlion cave. So in this movie, if you go through a jungle and around a cliff and down 3 waterfalls, you're going to end up exactly where you were supposed to be going.
Well, yeah.
And then if someone was separated for your group in that scenario, if they swing on 2 vines, they're going to end up right with you as well.
Yeah.
So all that, the whole logic was like, this is absolutely like a video game, and it really made me hate, like the overblown cutscenes and stuff in games like, Devil May Cry and stuff, because when we've gone so far, like when Wire Fu first came to America, it was really cool and different, but it's like they've gone so far in that direction now that like I'm trying to think of any, like 5 seconds of a knife scene in Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan had more intensity and emotion than the entirety of action in this whole movie.
I mean, I think I liked it more than you, but there's definitely an artificiality to it. And one of my biggest problems with all the things that were said leading up to it, that Spielberg and Lucas said, like, they were like, oh, the crystal skull is just the MacGuffin. That's just the red herring that like sets the adventure off. No, it's like completely crucial to the film and like basically solves every problem.
It is, and then again, with the game parallel, it's like the gravity gun of the movie.
It is.
So
it totally
if there's
is.
a puzzle, if there's something that's stymieing their progress, the answer is to find how do you need to use the crystal skull.
Right. And the other thing, I remember Spielberg was like, "Oh, no CG. This is going to be all old time.
I remember that.
All old time, real stunts. No, it's a beautiful morass of really good CG, but there's CG everywhere. You can't even get a real fucking prairie dog. Every prairie dog has to be made of CG in this movie.
Right.
Seriously.
And the CG is ludicrous. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, there's the monkey scene. Without spoiling it, just know that, and everyone will talk about it. But I mean, yeah, the whole movie felt like it was CG.
And the CG is so safe that like nothing's ever going to happen to anybody because they're just like all the really crazy shit happens in CG, I don't know.
The movie also embraces its own like complete lack of parallel insofar as like another comparison I have is that if you go downtown San Francisco, Pier 31, it's like a tourist trap, and they'll have these in Vegas and other places, but you basically pay $50 to sit on a magic carpet in front of a green screen,
right.
And then they tell you that all right, we're going to be playing. You're going to be flying over Alcatraz right now, or you're going to be flying over, buzzing like a chick on a bike with big tits. Like, how are you going to react? And so the people, the way that they're just like laughing because it's like, this is ridiculous. I have no connection to it. That's how. What's Indiana Jones' love interest?
Oh, she's laughing her way through the whole movie. Marianne, you're right.
She'll fly that fucking carpet, and you're like, how do you feel about that? And it's always just like,
I'm
smiling.
There are scenes where she just like gleefully like, we're all gonna die, woo! Yeah, because there's no danger, there's no physicality to it.
To anything,
but it's a fun, and it's a delightful romp.
That when they are in a life or death scenario, they'll choose those. Like there's a moment when they're in a quicksand, and it's like, okay, you're gonna die, but then they're like, well, let's have a family argument in this point, and it was clear because it's like, well, the audience knows they're not going to die. They know they're not going to die. Let's just have some exposition here and work out some plot elements. And they didn't even,
That was a nice break in the action.
Yeah, but it was a lot of people came out of it wondering like what happened. I mean, Lucas is like, I think that's a big part of it. But what happened to Spielberg? Because this is a guy who's proven himself with movies like Schindler's List, even stuff like Catch Me If You Can or something.
Or I thought War of the Worlds as like popcorn flick had a lot more physicality and danger and peril compared to this film.
It did, yeah. Shit, now I forgot where I was going with it. There was something about...
You were disappointed in Spielberg for this.
Yeah. I mean, I really think he should just go on and do other stuff. I mean, I'd like to see more Saving Private Ryans and stuff like that from him than this kind of thing. But he's got hit and miss. Oh, here's what I was thinking. This isn't a new trend for him. Because if you look back at like Jurassic Park, in that movie, I remember I hate it for the same reason. It's like as soon as that kid was like shocked off an electric fence and flew 100 feet, you knew from that moment on, okay, this kid's here for the long haul. So anytime he was cornered by a raptor or something, it was like,
he's going to be fine.
Like what? Yeah, I'm supposed to be worried for this kid that fucking just got electrified earlier. If that didn't do him, they obviously want him in for the sequel. So.
What did you think in Lost World when Jeff Goldblum's black daughter beat the raptor with gymnastics?
Is that the second one?
Yeah. Or what did you think about in Jurassic Park 3 when the climax was when they talk to the raptors and negotiate a truce at the end? That's
I'm trying
awesome.
to remember if I even watched those. I didn't make it to 3, man.
If you've never
Shane clearly did.
if you've never seen Jurassic Park 3,
Or he might just be really elaborately fucking with
They
us.
talk to the raptor.
yeah, Jurassic Park 3, not directed by Spielberg, produced by Spielberg. At the end, they negotiate with the raptors for a truce.
How do they? Never mind. You know what? Actually, I don't want to know. I don't want.
That's it.
That's pathetic.
You're fucking kidding me.
Watch the film.
So to wrap up
No, I don't think
Indiana
so.
Jones thing, it kind of worries me that like I want games to be a force for good, but I look at him and I was kind of ashamed. I was like, really? Is this is what games
This is our
doing?
contribution.
It's fucking up Hollywood.
Yeah,
the
pacing was.
I really believe that
So there
the
is-
popularity of gaming fucked this movie.
You think, yeah? So you think that because kids are playing games more than watching TV or going to the movies, that the movies' response is to make them more like
exactly,
video games?
to make non-interactive games, and I hate it.
Do you think we might be trying to read a little bit too much into this? I mean,
No, not at all. Watch it. You go watch
yeah.
it and you tell me.
I thought the same thing. It's, as I said, that episode 2, that scene, I was like, it's fucking Mega Man. Like, and it was. I was watching a Mega Man level in that movie. And this movie felt like a game. The pacing totally
You could
felt
point
like
out
a
when
game.
I talk. I mean, seriously, look for those moments when you see it: the monster closets, the platforming, the equivalent of the gravity gun, the puzzle solving, and also just the fact that there's no. It never invites you to try to figure out what's happening. Like, so why are we going to this area, or what's the secret behind here? It shows its hand in the first 5 minutes of the film, and then it's supposed to be a surprise later that it's. I mean, I can't say what it is without spoiling it, but
we are critics in the game industry, so is there a chance that we're applying touchstones that we're familiar with in looking at these sort of action entertainments that we play in games more commonly and applying that to movies? Are you telling me that a decade ago there weren't action movies to which you could not go back now and say, oh, you know what? That's that sort of sequence. That's that sort of
They
sequence.
do feedback. I think it's circular in that like games are borrowing from Hollywood, and then you have like certain movies that are borrowing from the games, and you're just like watering down or just amplifying in the other direction. Just these cliches and stuff.
I mean, for one thing, we were talking about wire movies. I mean, you can go back to any number of Jackie Chan movies and really heavily draw, any number of action 3D scenes from that being very, very, very game-like. They're very heavily scripted. They're very choreographed. But I don't think that they were in any way thinking, oh, well, let's make this like a video game.
Right. There's different levels. Some of it's responding to the fact that there are computer-generated effects, that increasingly large portions of movies are entirely digital.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed having heard Shane, having listened to this conversation. The biggest disappointment to me is Shane saying that there's that much CG in it, because I remember him talking about we're going to make it honest, we're going to make it indie, and hearing that it has that much CG, I mean, that's a real that's a bit of a crusher.
The first shot of the film is a prairie dog coming up out of the ground, and the ground is CG and the prairie dog is CG. And those are like the end of the movie, that has to be CG, but that doesn't, like a prairie dog could be a real prairie
dog. Do you know, has Variety or anybody out there like delved into any of that? Because I'd be really, really interested to hear.
People have already. The only review I read is San Francisco Chronicle, which I read on the way to work, and the reviewer there there was just saying that it's disappointing that the whole thing is. I mean, the fantasy. There's such a clear line between where the fantasy begins and the reality ends. Like in a lot of superhero movies, it's like, okay, now here's the CG part, and then here's the real part. But I was gonna say one other thing is like, I mean, that was a great question, Garnet, and it's like I do think that's true. We have a different point of view that's conditioned us. We're like so familiar with these things that we're gonna notice them. Maybe some people won't. But another thing is just getting older, because for the longest time, action movies, like, of course it's great. And then I think it was only a couple years ago when I just realized, I was like, you know what? All those years when I was in high school watching the beat 'em ups and stuff, and I couldn't understand why the girls were watching Grease and Dirty Dancing. And then I figured out they were more advanced, because like, shit, I watched Dirty Dancing with my girlfriend on a vacation a while ago. I was like, you're watching this shit when you were 14? No wonder girls were like dating the 22-year-olds and not me when I was 15.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
But it was like, they're just the same thing. It's like, this is just a bunch of highly choreographed aggressive behavior, and in theirs it's just a bunch of highly choreographed intimate or erotic behavior. And I just looked at it as the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I just felt like I was watching Grease with blood or something,
Wow, that's an interesting analogy. All right, there's your film corner from One Up Yours for the moment. That was a pretty interesting decision.
Skip never lets me talk about Lost on EGM Live, just saying.
Really?
Or TMZ.
Related to a video game.
You watch TMZ?
You're surprised by that? Wait. You've known Shane for how long, and you're surprised that he watches TMZ?
I wouldn't be surprised that he read it, but the show is just despicable.
And you're surprised Shane watches TMZ?
What is it?
You should check it out. It's on every night.
I don't have cable. Just tell me what it is.
It's on local channel.
I love that you don't even know what it is.
I really don't. I
That's
never watch
fantastic.
It's
Stay that way.
yeah.
You'll be happier.
Yeah.
TV. What is it though?
Paparazzi made into
One of
video.
those celebrity gossip show things.
Oh shit! Because Shane, you always have like Cindy and stuff would have those magazines that were about how they caught a celebrity wiping his nose, or like
celebrities are just
buying,
like you.
Yeah, buying a drink.
We famously had a picture of Ben Affleck had someone whose job was to wipe his nose. I was like, that's what I need, someone to wipe my nose.
Wow.
All right, let's move on to some more games. What do you want to get to? You know what? Let's do this. Since we were already right where we are time-wise, let's talk about anything else we want to that's not Sony, and then we'll take a break.
Sean might have played a game.
I was just going
to say that would probably be an excellent, like, stereotypically, I don't want this to be sexist, but I think there would probably be quite a few women who would buy a game that was about being paparazzi, and you simulate this world where you go around and you get a picture of like.
You need to go copyright that shit right now. You're totally correct. You need to go.
That would be a good Sims expansion,
Someone's
stop talking.
Stealing your shit right now.
I know someone is actually. There's a game designer. He's like, shit, give me a pen.
All right, so let's talk about Microsoft.
You know what? I want to interject one thing real quick though. Have you played? Because one thing I got taken to task to was my gloss over Battlefield Heroes, which I didn't explain well. Was just my visual take on it because I haven't played it. Have you played Heroes?
I did. Yeah.
So. What do you think of it? I mean, is it?
It looks like it's going to be a
Heroes
lot of fun.
is the free one, right?
Heroes is the free one.
Looks a little bit like Team Fortress.
I think it looks a lot like Team Fortress, but I haven't played it, and there were a lot of people who were pissed at me because they think they misinterpreted that I thought it was stealing from Team Fortress just because it looks like it does. When you walk by it, it looks like it.
I think there's a very good reason why it looks like that, and that's why it runs on anything, right?
It does. That's part of the reason. And to be fair, I mean, you don't develop games. It's difficult to make a game, and to a large extent, movies too. You know, like how you happen to have a year when it's like Mission Impossible comes out the same 2 months from Red Planet, or Armageddon comes out right from a few months after Deep Impact. But those movies begin pre-production like well in advance. It's not like 2 months later someone's like, oh shit, we got to make an Asteroid Impact movie. And similarly with games, I mean, like you just don't develop the assets and get your game off the ground that soon. So I really don't believe that they saw Team Fortress and said,
Let's
hey,
do that.
Let's copy this. But probably what they did do is they saw it, they came out and they're like, wow, you can do this, and people can like it. And that probably, energized them to go ahead with what they're doing.
Maybe they both saw The Incredibles.
The other I mean,
so here's my question: is it Battlefield with just a wrapper, or are there new game mechanics?
I wish it was
to it?
Battlefield with a wrapper.
Of course, there are new game mechanics. It's Battlefield.
WRAPPER.
It's
That's
Battlefield
the 50 Cent game you're thinking of.
But you don't have just this enormous variety of powers in Battlefield. You have, some in Battlefield 2142. But this will be to the extreme extent. For example, if someone's in a tank, you run up to them and you do this like force punch, and it will like fling the tank away and knock them out of the tank. So then you can run and jump in the tank yourself. Or say you're a sniper and you tag someone, and that means for a small period of time, everyone on your team will see you with an arrow above your head, even through walls and stuff. And so there are a number of things like that.
So it's very video gamey rather than trying to be war game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, imagine like a combination of like Power Stone and Battlefield or something, and it's a totally different game from.
That sounds awesome,
dude. He said Power Stone, and my eyes went bing.
Well, it's just a totally different game than Team Fortress. I mean, you both shoot rockets. And
yeah, I got that from the slagging that I got on every possible private message system
ever.
Aesthetics,
though, right?
I was just I just talked about the aesthetic, and what I didn't make clear was that in walking past it and glancing at it and looking at it, I was like, oh, it looks a lot like Team Fortress. I mean, maybe they're cribbing off of that.
Circulate though. I mean, like I felt good when I actually called some of Mike Mignola's work and some of the Hellboy animated stuff as an inspiration for the design for Team Fortress 2, and they were like, yeah, it was, but there's things like this, and they circulate, and it's like it gets to a point where it's kind of like saying, if you make a game that's cell shaded in any way, shape, or form, you're like, oh, you're ripping off Jet Grind Radio or something. I mean, it's cool to get to a point in games when you can have, just animated look and then there's a wide range in animated looks, like in forthcoming Prince of Persia.
So the funny thing is, I'll be playing Heroes at home because, as everyone knows, I have a ghetto gaming rig that's like 2.5 years out of date. So Heroes is actually intended for someone like me, so I can go home and play the damn thing.
Yeah, it was running well there, and the other thing that was cool about it was that it loaded really quickly, as they were saying. But then the other thing that works with their animation and art style is that it has like a paper doll sort of format for when you modify your characters and when you add all these different things.
Yeah, there's some people with some fucking weirdo shit on.
It's flexible. Yeah, there were so many items that you could throw on your guy, and like an example I gave on GFW Radio is that there was a peg-legged U-boat captain running around, and then I had a sombrero and I had basically, it was like Pancho Villa, but with from the waist down though I was like an Australian commando or something. I mean, but it's fun and it all works, and you just drag it and drop it and put it on there.
Yeah.
It's like, this looks cool.
So anyway, for people who are panicked, we will definitely be checking out some Heroes, and I still think it looks like Team Fortress at a glance, but we'll see what it does as far as playing it. All right, Microsoft.
So yeah, I didn't hear last week's show, but I heard you hated everything.
I did not hate everything.
You hated Fable 2.
I hated Fable 2.
Why did you hate Fable 2?
I don't hate Fable 2. Another explanation is like, Fable 2 is this game that's supposed to have these grandiose aspirations, and all we've seen, at least all I've seen is I've seen the game demoed 3 times. Mm-hmm. All 3 times it was demoed by Peter. All 3 times the demo started off with the screen, like the game's loaded up behind him, but he starts talking, and he's talking about what they're going to talk about. They're talking about what they're going to show, we're going to talk about the magic, or we're going to talk about the combat system, or we're going to talk about the interactive environments, and he's still talking, and then he'll demo the game for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then that's the end of it. They turn it all off, and there's a Q&A. So I've seen 2 or 3 minute sections of the game.
I don't think that's entirely accurate. I mean, he tried to stuff.
Have you never played it?
Fable 2?
Yeah.
No.
They wouldn't let us play it at this event.
I played a bunch of it last year.
Fable 2?
Yeah, in Santa Monica. I played a bunch of the combat.
Well, I mean,
they were doing, because you had to go into the media rooms, and there was 3 or 4 people at a time. But it was all hands-on with the combat, if I remember right. I mean,
well, there was no hands-on at this event, but he was trying to fit so much into the 20 minutes he had.
I fully recognize that.
Garnet's point of view, though, I mean, for one, that's not hate. And since I've never seen the game demoed live, I've only seen the video, and the videos match up perfectly with what you're saying. The last one, you hear all these wonderful and fascinating things about having children and having pets and all these things, and then you see them walk into a house. So,
show me more. I just need to see more.
He focused on the wrong things. One of the things he showed was in this town in the middle of nowhere, if you walk over here, you can see these little kids who, over the course of Fable 2, are going to act out the entire story.
Right, and then we stood there and watched them.
They act out the story of Fable 1, and that's neat, but it's not crucial to me understanding this game. And that he tried to show combat in 10 seconds at the end. And the combat was, I always heard one button contextual combat. That scared me. But then he showed, oh no, you can actually map there are 10 different attacks and 10 different spells, and you can customize them all these different ways. So it isn't as bone simple as it would have appeared.
What's funny is I've been on record. I'm not worried about the one button combat because at GDC,
the contextual nature of it is contextual. You know the way the throws are in Virtua Fighter, where depending on where you're standing, the moves will change.
Next to a wall, front or behind.
It's that kind of thing, but it takes the environment into account in a sort of bigger way as well. So if you're at the side and there's a table next to you, he'll use the table for leverage. And,
right, but in terms of it isn't like there's an attack button. You can put tons of different attacks on that attack button.
Yeah,
which it's something I hadn't heard,
including magic.
Right.
And magic is
separate.
contextual, and I'm using the air quotes as
Right.
well. So you can combine all that stuff and do like, a couple of quick sword attacks, and then vault off a wall, and then throw a magic spell, and like tie all this stuff together.
Right. Other things he said that it isn't nearly as linear as the last game. You really can go exploring on your own. There's more things to go and do.
That's the part. See, that's the part I need to see. That's the part I really
He
want to
didn't
see.
show us that. He just told us that.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like there was a demoing issue in that they felt the need to explain everything. But I also think the epic nature of a game, it's kind of like Oblivion, that it's difficult to show how epic Oblivion is because its epicness comes from lots of tiny little details.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can demo the tiny little details, but you can't show how the tiny little detail that you did here has an impact on the thing you do 10 hours
And if
later.
you did show it by compressing time, it would be like in a movie. You're like, okay, here's the setup. Try to here's the character, and then here's the scene where he almost dies. But it's
Yeah.
like if you just get that version, you don't care about the character.
Right, because
and
it's
you
like,
don't,
well, you would have done 10 hours of stuff in between and completely
Right.
forgotten, and it's doing lots of things where it's
At the
threading
same
back.
time, I could do with a more expansive demo, or maybe some save spots. Like, take me into a big town, interact with some people, take me into a big event.
He did take us. He shows the very beginning of the game, which is this huge town you grow up when you're a little kid.
Yep.
And he said things like, "Oh, if you decide to befriend these people over here, this group, then years later the entire city will change. All these things will happen." But he didn't show that to us.
Right.
But he told it to us, and it sounded really impressive.
It sounded really impressive. Yes, it sounded really impressive.
What was his record with delivering on the promises for Fable 1? Because I mean,
not so good, apparently.
Mixed.
so then that doesn't.
that's why
I don't
that's
see
why
you're
I'm
being a hater.
skeptical.
You're just being that's just
It has a
healthy.
date now, right?
Well,
fall.
fall.
Not a specific date.
Okay.
You said you don't think it's really going to come out.
Dude, like again, when you're talking that big talk, but you really aren't showing it, and it's for E3 preparation, it's supposed to be a big fall title.
Right.
I just don't
Well-
see it come. And come on, it's Peter. He's notoriously
And
late.
to back you up, I mean, he prefaced the whole thing with, "We have 5,000 terrible bugs," and throughout the demo, they were readily apparent as the main character kept disappearing, leaving his sword and shield floating in the air, and he'd be like, "Oh, don't pay attention to the fact that your character keeps disappearing."
but you
That's
can't-
kind of an important one. I mean,
But that's a bug. Come on, it's development. Let's not
but
knock him for that shit.
What about this? Everything that John just said, and I think that we were talking about how it being a difficult kind of game and difficult concepts to show in a demo. At the same time, when you think of the very best game demonstrations and screenings you've ever had, how many of them have almost been entirely nonverbal? And I'm thinking of when Spore was first shown, Wheelwright didn't need to say a damn thing. He was like, "I'm going to start on this. I'm going to start out in space. I'm going to zoom into the planet," or vice versa, or whatever. I think he started on a puddle, went out to the planet, and kept going. It's like, what do you think about that? Call of Duty 4, when they first started showing Modern Warfare at E3, it's like, I don't know. I begin to think a lot of times when they wait, and then they're like, people can explain it afterwards. We don't really need to tell you every little thing that's happening. You'll walk away and you'll be like,
I love
a more
Peter's
focused demo would have been good.
Right. I love Peter's dedication. I mean, or not even dedication. I love his very, very, very pure enthusiasm for creating something that's really special. And if you go back and look at Black and White, sort of in the same vein as Fable, great concept, some flawed execution. He really, really, really tried to address those things in Black and White 2 with, mixed success depending on how much people liked the, increased emphasis on real-time strategy. I think that the pressure is really on him on Fable 2 to deliver on so much of that promise, the stuff he highlighted, the open world play, the really feeling like you're in a dynamic environment. I think Oblivion put a lot of pressure on him. I mean, those guys have to look at Oblivion and go, shit, that's what we want to do, guys. We want to have that, but we want to have our dynamic character evolution and all this interaction with the townspeople and all this stuff that matters. And I think that's why I think that they're committed to making all that happen, and that's why I think it'll be 2009.
Well, I do want to see the graphics be a little better, and I want to see the bugs be squashed. So, if it takes the lane to next year, I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with that too. No argument.
Yeah.
No argument.
All right,
Make a great game.
So what else did you hate? You hated Gears of War 2.
One quick question. What did you think of the breadcrumbs?
Oh, I thought. Okay, I liked Fable 2, and I was very excited about Fable 2, and the co-op sounds great. However, when Molyneux dropped his earth-shattering new breadcrumb trail navigation system, hold up there, Peter. Those are the stupid blue arrows from Perfect Dark Zero.
Where's Joanna Dark?
He's like, oh, we don't have that terrible mini-map that ruins games. We have a glowing trail on the ground you follow. That's not innovative. It's not cool.
You don't drop the breadcrumbs?
No, it's just an arrow you follow. It's retarded. It's lame, very lame.
I think they'll revise that somehow.
Well, but yeah, he should have tried to sell it as like innovative because it's just an error you follow. Okay. So Gears of War 2.
Yes.
You apparently also hate.
I did slag on that for it being very, 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 very heavily scripted.
Did they have it on display?
No.
So it's more than that video that's out.
Cliff played through that what he called that entire level.
Well, so I saw Cliff later and I was like, it looked really impressive, but it was on rails. I'm like,
it was super rails.
Playing it very safe because like, Peter was trying to show off all these things and it was kind of a mess. And then Cliffy had a very safe on-rails demo that showed off, the new size and scope, and you're fighting all these giant monsters, and there's a lot going on, but you have very little control over any of it.
Right.
That was when I first read that this time it was going to be bigger, badder, and more badass.
Oh God!
But that it was that it was going to have.
I call that bigger, badder, and badasser.
That it was going to have before you've seen some skirmishes, now you're going to see the entire war. That's an awesome thing, and Halo wanted to do that as well. But it's really difficult to make a game that works that way. And one way to do it, like the Lord of the Rings games from EA, was that a lot of that's just happening in the background,
right?
And you're not really interacting with it. And so on rails makes perfect sense for that. I mean, it's not like the whole game is going to be that way, but it's like the video, right, where you're on that rigger, whatever they
you're
call
on
it,
the rigger, and
it's just driving along.
It's like you reach point X and monster Y enters from entry point here and it travels on this arc and comes up close to your rigger and then travels away.
A lot of people, though, they didn't have a problem with that in Call of Duty 4. The whole sections of the game.
So here's and I agree with you about that. Here's the thing that for me it made Gears of War work. Gears of War, my biggest complaint about Gears of War was that I felt more than any modern shooter I had played around that period, like I was really, really, really stuck in a hallway. Like I was like, there's one path forward. I mean, think about when you get to the mansion and you have to fight through the mansion, and then suddenly that door downstairs, you can go through it because you've killed another.
Jack can now open it because you've killed everyone.
Right, but what worked about it was that when you got into spaces, then you actually felt like you were having some dynamic battles. It's the same sort of thing as like Call of Duty 4 does. Like when you're coming up on War Pig, you're going through the town, you're being very definitely herded through the alleys, but then you get to the place where the tank is out in the swamp, and you really do start to feel like you lose that sense of I'm being herded for a minute, and you're just in the midst of a fight. There's guys coming at you.
I would say, like in my experience, though, that Gears and COD4 are probably equal in real estate. I mean, when you're and they're in their own scales, like the amount of range you have, like there are hallways in some, and then there are parts where they open up, and potentially, I mean, I don't know how it will work, but they introduced this new, the meat shield thing. Here's another item you have. But if the game's all about cover and there's a way to have mobile cover, and then I don't know, can I mention anything from the EGM story yet? Probably too soon.
Yeah, it'll be out. It'll be out next week.
Okay. Well, then,
little teaser.
I saw in there that they have these portable shields that you can actually carry, and then stick them down in the ground, and then use them as stationary cover from that point forward. That seemed kind of interesting because the way that the game works is that
So is this Gears' bubble shield basically?
Sort of,
right?
Yeah.
And it's different for me in Gears because there's a really big incentive to close the gap and engage in hand-to-hand combat in Gears, and then now they're trying to add to that with chainsaw maneuvers and stuff. So it's if you're in a fight, you're moving around, you're hiding behind the usual stone blocks that are placed there, but now you can grab an enemy, move forward to the next point with him as your cover, drop him, do it again, and then suddenly now you're inside all the guys, and then you can have chainsaw fights with them. I don't know. I mean, but that's me reading onto what they show. They certainly didn't show that.
No, I guess that was my thought about what they showed. The reason I was down on it was you were stuck on the rigger. It was very, very linear. The one time you came down while they had to fix the flat tire or whatever it was they had to fix was really, really rooted in that location because it was a defense mission. I mean, you're supposed to defend the guy, but it was still really, really rooted there. And it just was, I don't know, it was just really, really programmed.
Yeah.
In its defense, I'll tell you this, the skybox was nice and pretty. It was light, colorful.
It was a very safe demo, but I think it wanted to show off the size and scope and the fact that the level didn't look like a level from Gears of War 1. It was outside. It was pretty, natural beauty. And
the other thing, you heard the question I asked him. I mean, again, interesting. That was also the second level of the game. And in the second level of the game, they rolled out every single boss from the first game. They had Corpsers. They had Brumax. They had the flying things with the two dudes on them. I mean, they had every single big encounter out of the first game in that one level.
Yeah. So, I thought it was a fine display. I don't know why you're such a hater. Okay, then next was Banjo Nuts and Bolts. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, which...
It's been getting a lot of hate online.
Yeah, and I can kind of see why. It isn't a traditional Banjo-Kazooie game.
The idea is you build vehicles out of stuff in the environment, is that right?
Right. Well, so from the outset, they showed us the hub world, and they're like, for people who want a traditional Banjo-Kazooie, this is it. This is like, you're hopping, you're bopping, you're collecting stuff, and it is, and you are doing those things, but that's just the hub, and you go into those hub worlds. And most of those, I guess, are based on building different things out
Now you want to hear curious?
of all these pieces you collect.
Nick went over to Rare, and he tells me that the way they did the demo there was the diametric opposite of what they did for us. In other words, they explained it all as you're basically adventuring, you're playing Banjo-Kazooie the way you traditionally would have, and it also has this Build-A-Bear workshop thing on top of it. But then when they bring it over here and show it to us, they focus everything on the build your stuff, make your own, and make your own.
Well, no, I mean, is that a response to things like Little Big?
I think it is, but I also think that it is really mainly the building thing, because in Nick's interview, he talked about how they spent 18 months working on a regular Banjo-Kazooie platformer, scrapped it, and started over on this thing. And I was going to say, on that hub world, the graphics look really good in screenshots, but if you look at it up close, there's a lot of level of detail drawing and texture problems that I noticed. I hope they fix those before it gets fixed.
When you say build, do you mean that you collect a number of parts and then this prefab thing assembles that you can use, or are you actually
that or make your own?
Right,
Legos.
You collect all these little Legos, and then it shows you a screen where you actually build the thing. And my problem is Little Big Planet. You just like grab things and stick them together, and it works. On this, you're like rotating it in 3D space, and you have to like connect the engine to the thing with like a tube and make sure everything actually kind of works. It isn't as like simple as just like slap.
Is that a bad thing though?
Well, I kind of just want to slap things together. I don't want to like be carefully rotating a thing in 3 dimensions and
like mass market logic would say, yeah, like you just want to be able to put anything together and with no.
It's like here's a box. Now I have 4 wheels, and magically they'll steer.
Yeah,
which is how things work in sport.
Like,
you know, you can't create like a non-viable creature or vehicle or building in that game.
I was surprised that they didn't have something just like Snap. Like if I put a jet engine on a wing of a plane, it doesn't just snap to it. I actually have to sit there and fiddle with it until I get it just perfectly lined up and on top of it. Because if I don't connect them, it's not. I'm like, why don't you just lock the damn thing on there?
It seemed a little more intricate than I would have liked, but we just got a brief look at it. But my big problem was when they finally gave us this amazing car to drive around in that could also fly. I was like, what do you do with this thing? You collect 15 coconuts with it. Oh, thanks, Rare.
In defense of the intricacy thing, though, if you look at like Gary's mod, which you can make any vehicle you want, and it's ridiculously complex. You have to bind. If you put a balloon on something, you assign like how buoyant it is, or like what the thrust variables are for jets that you connect, whether or not the wheels turn, and the props turn in one way or another. But the fun thing is that when you do get something to work, you do feel some accomplishment. You're like, this, I don't just throw like a pile of shit together and it's going to become like a tank.
Did you answer his question about the prefabricated plan? I mean, are you assembling pieces to a blueprint, or are you just saying, okay, I've got some wheels and a wing and an engine, and I can slap it together however I want? There's both.
There's both. You can do the preset, like you can build the pusher car, or the shuttle, or the helicopter, or whatever, or you can take pieces and you can use that as a starting blueprint, and then just start rearranging and building and do whatever the hell you want.
What about, have they indicated any of the depth? So like if you just like, I want to make a trebuchet on the front of this vehicle, or I want it to have like the equivalent of a crossbow or something. I mean, and if there's not the range, what I'm getting at is why bother building it in the first place? If you're basically building a car or a boat or a helicopter, and it just looks different.
Yeah.
I mean, are they going after the Little Big Planet Freedom thing, or is this a response to the success of the Traveler's Tales Lego games? I mean, which direction is it kind of leaning?
It looks a little bit of both. Like it's trying to do both. But my question is, will the things you do with these vehicles be fun? And so far, jury's out. I do like
the coconut collecting. Was that
was the only one that was there? Yeah, collect 15 coconuts. I like the aesthetics. Like it looks really strange. It looks very strange, and like everything is made out of like pieces of other materials, and it looks neat. I like the way it looks actually.
All right. How about we stop right there?
All right.
Take a little break. When we come back, you want to do some more? I'm sure you want to do Ninja Gaiden.
I want to talk about Ninja Gaiden. Yeah.
All right. So we'll take a little break. We'll do Ninja Gaiden. We'll do 2 Human. We'll hit some Sony stuff.
I have Konami stuff to talk about.
We have Konami stuff. Dear God, we have so many games to talk about. All right. We'll do all that when we come back in just a minute. Thanks for taking letting us have a little break there. We're back, ready to hop back into, I guess, where do you want to go? Ninja Gaiden?
Let's do Ninja Gaiden.
Okay.
2. I've called it aesthetically bankrupt in the past, and I love Ninja Gaiden, but I am getting a little tired of Team Ninja's visual style for its characters, and we got to play Ninja Gaiden 2 levels with these special downloadable costumes. They're like the Fiend costumes, which are like Rita Repulsa's Mighty Morphin Power Ranger army. Like, these things look ridiculous. Like, You got to say, you saw what I was playing at, right? It looks really cheesy.
It did look pretty. It looked really cheesy.
But as expected,
Which would be fine, except it's a game where you cut people's heads off and
Right.
stuff. So
Right.
it's like it's not for tweens. It's supposed to be for people that are.
It's an M-rated game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in
So it's schizo that way.
I think in Japan that style is nostalgic for people who grew up with these like Sentai shows or whatever.
Right, it's
but,
got
like,
the Ultraman kind of vibe to it.
Right, but for me, they just look silly. But luckily, the gameplay is still pinpoint perfect, like the most demanding and like high intensity action combat in
Set
any.
for the camera.
Well, yeah, the camera, man. You saw me. I was doing this level where you had to like climb up all these stairs, and I'm babysitting the camera, and enemies see me before I could ever see them, and they're shooting like exploding
That is a
shuriken at
huge
me,
Problem. And when anyone with
knocking
a
me
projectile,
down.
when you can't see them and they're hitting you. Before you've seen them or when you're trying to like fight someone else, that's just kind of an annoying thing in a lot of action games, and they always have to like find some way to deal with it. And like the God of War handheld, it was kind of fine because they gave you a lot of methods to like attack people from a distance like quickly, but it's kind of a pain in the ass.
And the enemies are ruthless. I mean, all the guys who like commit suicide,
They are
really
ruthless.
dangerous. Your life bar goes down really fast. You really have to be good to play Ninja Gaiden.
But it does have the recharge. Does have the recharge now.
Well, you need it. Yeah, I kind of made fun of that for stealing Halo's recharge system, but it's so fucking hard. You really do need that.
I mean, I think the thing to me, like because I played the first 5 levels of it when we had that preview build, is to get into the flow of it and take the problem of the camera to the ultimate extreme, which is that every time you come into an area where you think you're not being able to see or you're worried about the camera,
Defend.
just start go batshit crazy, jumping and running, just jumping and running until you get everybody back down into an area where you have the
you
right
might
camera angle.
fall the hell right off something and have
But
to.
isn't that just
do the
really
rest of the
bad
level.
design?
It's bad camera.
See, I play more defensive.
It's bad
I play
camera.
more defensively. You kind of have to in this game. But what bothered me, there was a level that was a platforming bit, and it was over the water level. You saw me. I was like,
That was the weirdest
I
level.
was
Okay,
fighting with the camera to try to do these platforming parts.
you're in
Man.
an underground cave that's filled with some kind of weird Greco-Roman ruins,
Right.
where you're jumping over the top of the columns, and there are these flying
bats or something.
glowing bonefish things
Oh, yeah,
that are
that's-
attacking.
that's
It's
what they
like, wow, this is pretty out there.
See, that's what's so weird about it. I mean, because it is just like the backdrops for fighting games,
Yeah.
where they're entirely arbitrary from one to the next. Why some people were like excited that like, oh, he's going to America this time. He's going to New York.
Well-
It's like, well, yeah, New York with the fucking underground that's got Greco-Roman statues and
And I was playing the Times Square level.
Yes.
And the Times Square level looks great. There's like rain pouring. There's neon signs everywhere. But then it's totally empty and sterile.
yeah, and the scale is way fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Dead or
Like,
Alive
streets
trailer,
are like
Dead or Alive trailer playing on the video screen.
There is, but yeah, the sterility, the neon, the real doll characters. I'm over all of it. I still love Ninja Gaiden. I still love Tecmo, but they need to hire an art director.
It's really funny. It's really like distilled itself down now to where it's just about the combat. It's like you get in, you play it just for the combat. If you thought the story was convoluted before, like this one, like it just launches right into the game. You have no idea what's going on. The premises of it are it's less well tied together than the first game. Remember the first game you went back to your home village, and then you like hopped on the airship, and the airship took you to the next. Now it's like, oh screw it, you're in Tokyo. Now you're in New York.
Luckily,
Well, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'll be popping that in as soon as I get back home.
the combat still has no equal.
Yeah, I mean, if
There
you
you
like
go.
Ninja Gaiden's
It's
combat,
like what Fear is to shooters, like in the
Yeah.
PC version of Fear. I heard the other console ones had some problems, and it's like the story's a mess. The locations are like arbitrary for the most part, but what's good about the locations in that game is that they're there because stuff blows up. But it's like if you like shooting games, you play Fear because the AI is phenomenal and stuff has like that real high impact kick to it. And it's like this is the same thing. It's like you play it because the kung fu is badass, like the combat is
true.
excellent, and everything else is just like.
I mean, you once played Ninja Gaiden for the graphics. I don't think you do anymore. But luckily, the gameplay is still there.
yeah.
So.
Oh, and the weapons. The weapons
and
are
the
fun.
the weapons
Weapons are fun, and man, they are so gruesome with the dismemberment and especially like just absolutely wrecking shit. Like if you have like the Morning Star sort of weapon and you take it to someone's head, it's like, and it doesn't behead them. It actually just watermelons their head.
Yeah,
it does freaking total Gallagher on their head. It's really off the hook.
It does have the graphics. I don't know. I mean, the some of the enemies look pretty cool. I'm not talking about like the spider ninjas, but like just the devils, the fiends, and stuff. I mean, compared to like most shooters, like Halo or something, you're like, oh, there's like 5 types of enemies or something. They really do throw a whole bunch in, even if none of them is like something you're going to remember for years and years from now. They do throw a whole bunch of stuff in there to fight, and some of the big ones are pretty impressive looking.
Also, Microsoft. I didn't play Viva Pinata, so I can't weigh in on it. But I know you're a hater again, right?
No, actually, I wasn't a hater.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
hate on Viva Pinata. I actually think Viva. Like, I agree with Nick. Is like this is the ultimate revision of Viva Pinata, and I thought it was good that I didn't see a 2 on there because people were talking about it as a Viva Pinata 2, but it really doesn't seem like Viva Pinata 2. It really does seem like it seems like the PC theory of an expansion pack, but an expansion pack that also goes back and retools the original and like cleans
a
up.
complete reboot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the navigation tool sounds like it's the one thing it really needed.
Yep.
Like, I want to go and find my worm, and you have to like hunt around with the cursor on the environment. and
now
try
you
and
can get
find
right
it.
to it.
Should this be a full price retail game?
Well,
You know what,
I think for them, it
pricing
needs
to
to be
pricing people.
because the first one didn't sell very well anyway, and this thing will stand alone. Then it may be a chance to get people to play it. I don't know. I didn't go to the event because Microsoft didn't invite me.
Oh.
Well, we know what they won't be playing. So we know what they won't be playing. They won't be playing Microsoft games.
Well, the last game was Too Human, and I think maybe we've already talked about that enough in our preview, but we're still on board even with only 2-player co-op.
I'm still on board. Yeah.
Still on board.
What do you think about this? Like, one of the things that came up that I thought was really interesting and pointed out to me, going back and looking at it, really does stand out. The levels in that game are really, really sparse. I mean, they're really empty if you think about it. There's not a lot of stuff in them. Does that bother you? Didn't bother me because it's such a
Well,
Zerging
what kind of
game.
stuff do you want?
I don't know. Like, there's really no furnishing to them. Like, they're big, flat expanses with walls.
Well, it's like PSO. I mean, there are the little arena rooms which we
Right.
shouldn't do any of them. It's
We
weird.
did at GDC.
But not on this.
No, we didn't at this one.
Last week that was weird. There were none that I saw actually in that level.
Oh, wait.
Maybe we just weren't finding them.
Tell me what's interesting about this game, other than as far as I understand, it's like 2-player Diablo, right? With some like kung fu
2-player, really
fighting.
pretty 3D Diablo.
You just go through these sparse rooms, kill a bunch of enemies, and collect their loot, right?
Yeah, it's a loot game. It's a Diablo style game. I mean, the single player game has tons of story and more character building and other stuff. But the multiplayer is pretty much.
You're not convinced
About what?
about Too Human.
I think it's funny that we emphasize the story because so far the story. I mean, I'll buy into it as much as I buy into Peter's stuff. Like Dennis talks a great story. I think that his idea of rolling in the Norse mythology thing sounds interesting, but we haven't played it, so we don't know that part. But I'm completely sold on the combat. I mean, I love Diablo. Like running around with Shane playing this game was a blast. What I hated was that we had a limited amount of time to play, so we weren't playing it smart. But
Right.
playing it smart, it would be a lot of fun.
Because there have been a few games on Xbox now, well, on Xbox and Xbox 360, where they've tried to replicate Diablo gameplay with a pad, and it hasn't worked. I mean, the last one was.
So you know how this one? Do you know how this one works?
No.
Okay, so real quick, the control scheme is that it's twin stick. To attack an enemy, you simply push the stick at them.
Wasn't
and
that
Grab by the ghoulies.
Wasn't,
melee
wasn't the
attacks
one
them.
that Milky got into recently? Kingdom of Circle of something.
Kingdom Under Fire: Circle of Doom is not not good.
No.
Right, but that was the same. That was a Diablo knockoff.
It is, yeah.
That was 2-stick as well, wasn't it?
No, I think it had attack. I played it for about an hour.
I've not played.
Anyway, so that's melee attack, and then weapon attack is you're still pointing the right stick at an enemy, but you just start pulling the triggers, and it's mapped to right and left triggers with your right and left guns. Or if
Okay.
you have one gun, it's the right trigger.
So it works
That sounds
because
interesting.
you can shoot someone and in the very same time pistol whip them with it.
Exactly. So as you're closing on guys, you're blasting them with your ranged weapon, and as you get close enough, you just let off the triggers and go right into your
That
melee
sounds like
attacks.
You can
it's
kind
like
of
really
put-
visceral and kind of
It
cool.
is really
Well, so it kind
visceral
of plays
and cool.
like Geometry Wars if you're shooting. And what he's not saying is with the analog stick, you can tap on it to do combos or just hold it down to keep moving to different enemies. And the game feels a little automatic. And for the first like 10 minutes or so, you'd be like, wow, this kind of moving me around and jumping me around. And you realize that's the way it has to be. And like it keeps it from being too chaotic.
And he's right about the combos. The combo thing is really cool. I mean, then like that'll give you basic attacks, but then once you get to where you want to actually wail on a mini boss or something, it's like you want to do tap A or tap B, and or jump in and get them into an air combo, which does a whole other realm of different sorts of damage to them. I said it a long time ago.
Is it still super zoomed out?
You can choose. There's 2 camera angles, and then even with that, the camera does change depending on your location. But I prefer the closer in view.
I mean, I don't know if you remember it, but I said this a long time ago, is that Too Human executes on what I think that the flagship guys wanted Hellgate to be.
Really?
Yeah, it really it's like it has this really pretty aesthetic. It has the Diablo style sort of play mechanic to it. It's got the setup easy for 2-player.
Completely different approach, though.
Yeah, very different approach, but I think it really nails it a lot better.
Pace. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty fast paced, right?
It is
Yeah.
pretty fast paced.
What worries me is that those games tend to be really monotonous and they get fatigued
I
playing.
can remember like playing all the way through Diablo 2, and it getting to the point where it just got physically painful because you were clicking so much.
And if all you're doing is shooting and shooting, you know, I mean, and you get like the battle fatigue, and there's no break from it, right? I mean, like if you have games like, you know, Halo and Half-Life and stuff, and they say, well, yeah, like it's just shooting and shooting and shooting, but then no, I mean, that's when they throw in the part, now it's time for a puzzle, maybe now it's time to drive.
Is there a boss mechanic to human?
There are bosses, and there's different mechanics. Like you have to jump on top of things, and
it's not just a boss mechanic, John. It's the Diablo mechanic. It's like mini boss and horde, mini boss and horde, mini boss and horde, mini boss, micro boss, and then giant bosses.
But how do they manifest? I mean, are they?
Yeah,
and the controls.
End of level, you know, it's very traditional. Like
because I mean, in Diablo, it would essentially lock you in a room, and you had to make sure that you had enough of the magic bottles to be able to throw fireballs if it was, you know.
Yeah, this is.
And don't forget, we're glossing over that whole part we saw at GDC, which was that overworld that was. Remember, we went through the portal, and we went to like the world where the Norse gods were, and we had to move stuff around. Like,
right.
cause there's
called cyberspace.
It's like cyberspace thing.
Well,
there's layers.
And the other thing is, there's tons of drops. There's epic set.
Just real quick, just in all fairness, we just got done making fun of like the underground with like Grecian Etruscan statues. Now
we have the Viking internet.
I actually think the way they approached that, it's pretty well done.
It was pretty cool.
It's the internet with horns.
Hey, dude, it just shows you the difference. Like sometimes you get sold on shit, and sometimes you're like, screw it.
But yeah, 2 Humans still looking good. All right, that's enough Microsoft. You weren't at Konami. You were,
nope.
In fact, kept texting me like, "What? Come do the show," and I was at Konami until 12:30 in the morning. So
I'm sorry.
No.
When was this? Why don't I get to go to any of this stuff?
Alice and I tried to spread that stuff out so nobody was unduly burdened.
Consider yourself lucky that you weren't waiting in
previews and stuff. And
you did EA stuff,
right?
Yeah, trust me, you didn't want to be waiting in line at 12:15 in the morning to play Rock Revolution.
It's good,
and honestly,
so we're just informed
really
for
that late.
We didn't know Konami was going to be such a clusterfuck, and it was really a frustrating clusterfuck, actually.
So what do they show? I mean, apart from the obvious.
I mean, the big thing was Metal Gear, and we've already done that, so we won't talk about that here. But it was Silent Hill Homecoming, first time ever hands-on. And I did a cover on that a year ago, and I hadn't really seen it since then. They hadn't really showed it, and people were pretty worried about this game.
Yeah.
A lot of people were worried about this game, and they shouldn't be worried. It is a very proficient Silent Hill. Will it surprise you? Will it impress you? Does it go way outside the bounds of what you think?
Silent Hill is like, I mean, any horror movie. I mean, you're not really looking for it to surprise you. You're looking for it to kind of. You're not expecting it to be creative with the way. You just want it to shock you and scare you and be creepy and.
Because it can be like The Room was pretty creative, and the first time when Silent Hill 2 came out, I thought it was pretty creative. But I mean, now I want something more than I want a whole. I mean, I'm not bothered that it's another team doing it because I think they need an entire reworking. Because the last time I played it, the portable one, although I know that wasn't Konami either, it was farmed out, but it was like religiously done according to the Konami established Bible, and all that game is a way of saying, let's build geometry for a building, a hospital, and how do we keep you in here for 6 hours? And the answer is like, you have one answer to a puzzle in this room, and it answers a part in this room that answers part of this, and you spend 5 hours going back and forth between rooms. Every 20 minutes, maybe you'll beat someone with like a club or a mannequin leg. And
Silent Hill Origins was very faithful reproduction of what people think you would need out of Silent Hill. And I would say Silent Hill Homecoming is once again a very faithful reproduction of what you think you need out of Silent Hill. Like same puzzles where you're collecting 3 pieces of medallion or 4 pieces of an X-ray scan to open a door.
Got some zodiac signs.
Lots of locked doors. It's very straight up Silent Hill. The combat is a lot better because it plays more like, I mean, the review is a little more Resident Evil, but you have like combos and you have more moves, and it's definitely more physical, the combat, and I liked the combat, and combat was never Silent Hill's strong suit, so the fact that it's even like, all right, is a step forward. But
what about this?
And it's the first next gen one, right?
It is the first next gen.
Aren't they transitioning like in real time from like the shit covered walls?
Those look really good.
Do they do anything with gameplay with that, or is that this is just the transition you've seen before, but instead of a load screen or like a pause?
Yeah, not that I've seen so far. And I think the other problem facing it is, even though the graphics are good, they definitely aren't as good as Silent Hill 2 looked when it came out, or Silent Hill 3 looked when it came out. Like they're not mind-blowingly awesome, even though they're nice and they're aesthetically pleasant, but they don't blow your mind.
Are they simply using that mechanism to double their environment with only having to retexture the environment? Like, meaning that, when I said the hospital,
right,
then they double it by, they have the shitty version of it, and then they just relocate the puzzles and renumber the rooms.
That's another tenet of Silent Hill, yeah.
It's like, imagine, like, for the shock and the scare factor, like, if you're now, instead of going to a mirror, whatever, each game had a different, like, way to switch worlds, it's like, instead of using it as, like, to extend the puzzle, it just throws at you. You're walking down a hall, boom, it changes, and you're sinking in the floor, or something happens, and then the game is different and unpredictable.
I think Silent Hill, to me, is a game that that showed a lot of potential in the initial game, and then was influenced significantly by what it saw, what the designers and producers saw Resident Evil doing right, and felt a need to respond to that, and didn't really realize. To me, okay, so
I would disagree.
The best thing Silent Hill ever did, really, because the best thing for me is Silent Hill ever did was put me out in the fog with this radio, where every so often the static would come up, but I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where the enemies were going to come from, and there was like this very, very palpable tension.
That's the core of it. This is the same problem as with horror movies, when one of them does really well and they feel the need to make lots of sequels. The thing with Silent Hill was that when you got some closure, there were still questions.
Right.
And that was the beauty of it. Silent Hill 1 was pretty much a complete package. By the time you were done, there were questions, and it was like walking out of a really good horror movie where you're like, oh, what do you think was really going on there? And what they really should have done with this is go back and remake the original. And be more creative with the ideas that made the original one so magic. But trying to extend a universe that was intentionally closed off to start with, it's like it's a town that sort of exists but sort of doesn't. How do you expand that unit? Well, now there's another town, or the town's bigger than you thought it was.
Every Alien movie after
there is like another town. You start out in the town of Shepherd's Glen, which like is Silent Hill. You find out later, obviously. But it in many ways it feels like they're trying to remake Silent Hill 1, but without trying to rewrite the rules, because this developer doesn't want to think they didn't want to go and trample on the team that created Silent Hill's vision and go too far outside those boundaries. So
I want Alan Wake at this point.
Yeah,
this whole time I'm like, if Silent Hill should be what Alan Wake is promising to be.
No argument.
I walked away from this like
Did Microsoft show that, by the way?
No,
dude.
Really?
It's so 2009. They're like, it's like they haven't talked about that game in over a year now.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I walked away from Silent Hill like still interested, still wanting to play it. I mean, the soundtrack was amazing and like phenomenal, and I want to see where it goes. And the trailer they debuted showed some things later in the game that looked pretty cool. You see Pyramid Head briefly, like.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, don't expect this to be the second coming of Silent Hill 2. Don't expect that. All right, what else was there? There was Rock Revolution, which was just kind of a real tragedy because as you know, Konami birthed the rhythm action genre with like Beatmania, Guitar Freaks, DDR, Drum Mania, Keyboard Mania, and they're trying to reclaim what was rightfully theirs after Guitar Hero and Rock Band, ruled, and not so much with this. Not so much.
Why do you say not so much? Why is that?
So the star of the show is like this 7-pad super complex drum peripheral, and like I had to look at it the whole time. I didn't know where anything was. Like 7 notes are flying past me, and it's so expert level. It's so high level.
It's made for the dude in Lost in Translation in the arcade scene.
Seriously, though, it's really complicated. So maybe if you're really good at like the drums in Rock Band, you want a higher challenge, this will please you. But I found it to be just like bewildering, and just the fact that none of the songs are the original versions.
So what is up with these its origin is Japan, presumably the team that did it is Japanese?
No, this is being made by the people who made Dancing with the Stars for Wii.
Oh, okay. Well, that shoots my argument. Why is Japanese innovation just to make things hard, which seems to be the current trend coming out of
it. It definitely is a throwback to Beatmania, because it has like the pure vertical scroll. And if you're used to the angled view of Rock Band and Guitar Hero, it seems harder because you don't really see them coming as much. And the other thing is a guitar, so just a guitar and drums, no mic, no keyboard. And if they're going to make the really hardcore game, I think they should have put like a keyboard in it, because then like go for like
Who's going to fucking buy this thing when like all the other ones are releasing downloadable content and song packs and stuff?
Well, this claims it's going to have downloadable content.
No one's going to buy it.
Does the world really need another one?
At the event, I was like, how many sets of plastic instruments do I need in my life? 1 max. I mean, really?
Yeah.
It's not going to be cheap. But I think
why didn't they just do like a new version of Beatmania? I mean, I think that is like, we've had this discussion before, and like people are just like, well, everyone loves guitar, but it's like, dude, a lot of people like hip hop a lot more than people who listen to Judas Priest would realize,
Yeah.
And if they got that and they nailed it to the same extent that the
play
Guitar
to the
Hero
strings,
nailed,
do something that people haven't done yet.
I'm
But
afraid.
Konami's whole strategy right now with all of this stuff seems to be desperately clinging on to. I mean, like they sent. Did you see the press release they sent out about just before Wii Fit came out, where it was like, we invented fitness a few years ago. Remember
Yes,
this?
I saw that. That
we
was
had a
awesome.
fitness mode in DDR 3 years ago, whatever it was, and it was just so sad that that was the tactic that they'd resorted to.
It is the 10th anniversary of DDR, and there were 3 new DDRs on display.
3.
So
What flavor does DDR come in now?
X, I don't even remember.
360,
Wii
and
PS2.
PS2.
But I mean, does it have a particular
No.
vibe, or is it going after anything in particular, or
Not really.
No, it's just
fitness, fun, the usual. But yeah, the Rock Revolution was a definite disappointment, and like they're late to the party that they started, so it's kind of sad. But Metal Gear is fantastic.
All right.
Yeah,
That was it?
that was kind of it.
Wow. It was a lot to have to stay there for. That's a little to have to stay there for that
Any
long.
reveals in the Metal Gear demo?
He showed a weapon that I saw when I was playing it, but it's so expensive you literally cannot purchase it your first time through the game. You have to play through it again to get it, and it's this old-timey gun, like this ancient Japanese like rifle, and the reload animation is hilarious because it's like loading a musket, like Snake's like stuffing this thing down the barrel. It takes like a minute to reload it, and then when
Like
you
a matchlock?
yeah, and then when you shoot it, it creates like a colossal cyclone that picks everybody up in the air, spins them all around, like goes through the city, and drops like 1,000 items on the ground. Yeah, it's pretty.
That's
awesome.
pretty neat.
Yeah, that was
Well,
It's pretty interesting.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to so I guess Friday. I'll talk about Sony stuff, and you guys can fire questions at me, and I'll start rolling through them. So the first game I played was SOCOM Confrontation, and we got to play the level
It
that
has a release date now.
it does have a date.
I think so.
I said they know they're going. I know they're going to do a beta.
It's September,
September,
right?
yeah.
So
And it's concurrent download and retail, like
that is
before,
correct,
right?
and they're going to do the same sort of thing as a Warhawk, where if you buy it at retail, it's going to come with a Bluetooth headset.
Does it look better than it did at E3 last year?
Did it look bad at E3? I thought it looked good.
It looked alright, but it looked really simple.
Well, what about it looked simple to you?
Well, it was like they took a lot of the cool, like, SOCOM-iness out of it and turned it into more of a straight-up shooter.
So it has some.
Less SOCOM, more Rainbow Six was kind of the vibe it was giving off last year.
No. This felt very much SOCOM. You know what this felt like to me? It felt like SOCOM 2. It felt like SOCOM 2
I'm sold.
or Counter-Strike. I mean, it helped a lot that we were playing a bomb mode, which obviously immediately made it feel like Counter-Strike. But I'll tell you the things that stood out to me the most about the game were it was pretty. It definitely looked pretty.
What level was it?
It's the same level that Joe played. The what's the name of that city?
Hodao Dongking?
That means man down.
Yeah.
What?
That's one of the taunts in SOCOM multiplayer. Thai. But I used to pretend that I was Thai on there, and I'd be like, "That mean man down," and then people would be like, "Whoa, dude, you from Thailand?" And then just like say all the other stuff.
That's a classic Shanji.
It's not even a joke. It's just how it was, dude.
Wow, that flew right over my head.
I knew what he meant. I knew 100% what he meant when he said that.
So 3 things stood out to me. Besides the fact they look really good, they're doing an awesome job with the sound, and especially the way sound responds in the environment. Like what do they call it? Occlusion. So if you're coming up on a corner, you even in just stereo sound, you could really tell. Okay, not only is there a fight going on around the corner now, someone's firing a gun, but he's like 15 yards down the street, or he's like right at the corner, or he's like way down the street. You could tell from the way the report from the rifle would echo. Or if you're coming into a courtyard, you could tell generally where fire was coming from. Mm-hmm. So that was really a good part of it. And then in general, the level that we were on, and this is one of the questions I asked them, was the level we were on was really, really naturally furnished with stuff. And the stuff made cover in the right spots where it felt like you should have it. So if you're in it's a very Arabic place, it's a marketplace and stuff like that, there were stalls where you thought there should be stalls. There was open space where you thought there should be open space.
Civilians?
No civilians, no.
Okay.
No,
Still
no.
all third person?
You can pop
first,
into
right?
You can pop into first. Everyone played in third.
But they model the guns in first?
Yeah, they have a gun. Yeah, I think they had a gun.
It never had a gun
Yeah.
model before,
It
did
was
it?
just some crosshairs.
Yeah.
I think it had a gun model. It has iron sights, which is awesome. I mean, I'm all about the iron sight thing. And so there's lots of different guns to choose from. The guns have upgrade spots on them where you can spend command points to you can take an M16 or an AR-15 or whatever and drop a ACOG sight on it or a red dot sight. You can extend your magazine. You can do all that kind of stuff to it. But those are the 3 big things. It was like combat felt good. The graphics looked sweet.
So is it still a SOCOM side project, or is it more?
It's definitely a SOCOM side project.
It's not SOCOM 4.
No, it's not SOCOM 4. It's online. It's basically.
It's very often these games that are said, well, we're just doing this spin-off to experiment, and then the next thing you know, that's the new part of the franchise.
Yeah, no, I think it's a side project. They won't call it a side project, but it's a hell of a side project. I mean, there's a lot of work.
Why are they going the way that I think their audience nowadays is going to respond to it? Like it's the next SOCOM. So
Yeah.
it's like, why play games?
Is there a single-player campaign?
If this is the next,
no, it's a multiplayer online game.
Right, but it's not by the original SOCOM team.
No, it's by Slant 6.
It's by Slant, who did the PSP game, right?
Yep.
So
and they've done a good. I'm just telling you, man. What matters about this is that it's a good online combat shooter game. It definitely has that sort of like Counter-Strike's the closest thing I could compare it to. Really, that sort of vibe. Maybe a little faster. Faster.
I don't know. What always kept me from enjoying SOCOM multiplayer is that the controls. You know, I mean, the combination of the DualShock and then a game where bullets are very lethal and you'll die quickly and then have to wait out the round. It was like,
I think,
well, at least
isn't this a response? Isn't it? I mean, like, isn't the underlying message with this that it's a sort of more casual SOCOM?
It's very adjustable. You can set the game the way you want to. So one of the modes, we played it both ways. We played it classic SOCOM way, where when you died, you were dead, and it's like Counter-Strike. But they also do have respawn now. I mean, so you can set the game up to where it has respawn in it if you want to do that.
Because I mean, one of the things that particularly with SOCOM 2 is that the variety of the theaters that you're in, there'd be the snow stuff and the desert stuff.
That was one of the things that it's not on display. I hope so. The other level that they showed Joe was that level that has like the hospital building in the center of it, and they're certainly not shy about having the levels as well as intricate, from a blueprint sort of way, also be intricate in a change in elevation way, where you've got lots of different level roofs.
They've always been good about the asymmetric map, so it wouldn't be like, oh, here you are, and you both have equal amounts of space because there'll be the levels where there's a building at the bottom of a hill, and you're starting at the top, and the prisoners are in the basement. And
right.
As the SOCOM team, you had to get in and then get through the building and then back out again. I mean, they're doing that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, the cool thing about this Sony event was we got to play everything for a good amount of time. So I played each of these games for about an hour or so, and then during that hour playing this game, I mean, I felt like there were places you developed like, okay, I know that this is a potential choke point, but in any given round, you didn't know it was the choke point, which it kind of like brought me back to playing Counter-Strike maps where you're like, okay, well, if they go this route, then I know they're coming by me. But if they don't go this route, then in about 30 seconds, I'm going to be exposed from my right flank because they're going to be coming around that direction. So that started making me think I liked that kind of tactical play to it.
What else they show?
Resistance 2 was the next game I played, and man, so Thomas Puha saw it at the London event.
Our Finnish friend, Thomas Puha.
And so he was the first guy to explain, or first guy I read that had the explanation about how they plan to make the 60-player online battles work. Because Ted Price famously said that like 60-player, we're not going to bring everybody together because that's chaotic. It doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, but just having guys in squads. I mean, there are games with squads. It doesn't really change anything. The part that I didn't get is how fucking big these maps are. It is dumb. It is just dumb how big the maps are.
But does that mean they're not that detailed? It's just like one texture over
they're super
50 miles around?
Capture point system?
I don't know how they're doing it, but we were playing. So we were playing in the footage you've probably seen. We were playing up by the lumber mill, and we're playing in one squad. And at different points in times, there was a second squad that would join us on some objectives, and we were fighting against 1 or 2 and maybe even 3 squads at a time. But each squad only has a handful of players. So in a 60-player game, keep in mind, we have like maybe a third of the total population of that server, and it's because the map is so big that so far away you might never even come across them are other battles ongoing on the map that may or may not impact what's happening for your team.
I don't understand why that's good.
Well, because what happens is throughout the course of the match, they can dynamically change the balance between how many squads are fighting at any one time.
Why do it in a giant map that's 60 people? Why not instance a bunch of stuff and feed into what you're doing?
You could probably do it that way.
Well, because, I mean, surely the idea of having 60 people in a gigantic map, the challenge is that it's sending a lot of data around across the network, and your PS3 is rendering a lot more than it really needs to.
I don't know. I think it's ignoring all that stuff that's way far away at the time.
So
I think
it's almost inconsequential.
It's almost inconsequential.
How does it determine where you spawn and where you're fighting at? Also, what are the victory conditions for this mode?
James didn't answer that, and they obviously have a lot to figure out as far as victory conditions, because the way they were playing it right now was timed modes for score. So at the end of the time session, then whoever had the highest score, that team won. I mean, it's obviously still very
just
much
for kills. It was
So
just
do you think they're gonna do
you're
things
like team
where-
deathmatching on a 60-player map then?
Well, so here's the way it was working. They would give you an objective, and so it would be like your team needs to take this control point. The control point would be like an energy generator inside the mill or whatever. And if your team started to win, then you'd be sent to the next spot. And if your squad was losing, then other squads would be sent to reinforce you. Like one of the objectives that your squad could be sent was to reinforce another squad that wasn't performing well. So they can intentionally set up
But were those
2-on-1s.
control points dependent? So, if there's 16 of you playing up in the northeastern corner of the
right.
map, and you have to take out a power generator, is that potentially going to knock out a defense system that people that you're not even talking to, let alone seeing, are affected by?
I think that's the hope. They're being very careful not to say that, but I think that's the idea.
Okay.
I'm pretty
So
sure that's the idea.
It's more like being a part of a war.
Exactly. It's more like being a part of a war. Your squad's taking place in.
Can you communicate with the other guys?
You can communicate with your squad.
But you can't radio to the squad that's, say, you're in the northeast and there's a skirmish going on down in the southwest.
Evidently not.
You can't radio to them and say, we're about to take out the generator, the bridge is going to come down any minute.
It's all automated too. That's the thing. If your spawn system is automated for your squad, if it's
it's dry.
CPU's determining where everyone's going, it just
The way the spawn system seemed to work to me, Sean, was based off of where your squad was. You would spawn in proximity to your squad mates. So it seemed to be like.
Does that mean that the squad leader is able to choose where he goes and then everyone spawns on him?
No, it didn't seem like.
Battlefield?
You know what? There didn't seem to be a leader. It seemed to be like your squad was just your squad, and everyone was kind of working together. I mean, first of all, controlled case of journalists.
Everybody dies at once.
Everyone was following along and playing the game as you're supposed to, but that's because you want to do that because the reward system really does factor into the game a lot, which is where so as you are either killing enemies, you'll get more points if you kill enemies on your rival squad. So at any given time, your squad has a direct rival squad, and that rival squad is tasked with defending or beating you at whatever the next objective is. And also for capturing objectives, you get these magic points, which I don't even know. I think they have
Magic points?
They have a name for them. Magic points. I'll just use that. I don't know what the name is for them right now. It's they're like combat points.
Did you cast a spell?
They're basically like bonus points, and you fill up your bonus meter. And once your bonus meter is filled up, then you're going to have access to these extras. Which so far the only extra they had.
Call of Duty stuff, the special.
It's like Battlefield 2142 also. Where you
it's like on-field power-up. Is that the way 2142 works?
And you earn it, basically.
Right, and you earn it by doing stuff. Is that the way 2142 works?
No, that's like you get it and you keep it. You earn it and you keep it. But they're all things that help your squad, like a squad beacon that lets everyone, spawn on you. I mean, shields and stuff that you can use, things like that.
Yeah, so the one they had, the only one they have in the game right now, which was what you just earned automatically, was a shield that you could pop. So you'd get this thing and then you could pop a shield in front of you.
So, when is it set? In relation to the first one, is it immediately after?
It's set shortly thereafter. The what's the name of the stupid enemies in Resistance? I have Covenant stuck in the brain.
No, it's not that.
I know that. I know it's not that. Anyway,
those guys.
The
guys with all the eyes.
You're Nathan. In the single player campaign, you're Nathan Hale, who was the guy from the original game. You're back over in the United States, and you're defending North America as they're coming to attack North America. Mm-hmm. In the co-op campaign game, you're on the other side of the country, evidently, which is going to tie together somehow. So if one's on the East Coast, the other's on the West Coast. They showed some pictures from Chicago, which we have the first 4 screens from single player. I think we have them now in the preview.
Did they show a single player level, or was it
no? It was all multiplayer.
On only the 60-player multiplayer.
It was only the 60-player multiplayer, and I swear, I think it's really pie in the sky. One of the things I was pushing, James Stevenson, their community manager, was there running this demo, and I think that they're still really playing with how does this work? Because I was like, so is this going to be part of the storyline? Is there going to be story to the missions? Are they going to work like Unreal Tournament assault levels? And he's like, yeah, we're playing with that stuff. I think that that's still a challenge for him. For instance, with all these different squads playing around these maps, it would have to be there'd have to be a AI for the game to know how to move the control points and the objectives for the squads to make it work, or someone actually juggling them. I mean, that's a really complex game mode for them to work out.
So, I mean, is this going to be the big PS3 game?
Thank you, Andrew. Chimera. That's the bad guys, the Chimerans, which I think they used to like try and fool you into wondering whether or not it was like a viral, like weird plague thing, or if they were actually aliens. Remember, because they never identify that. Is it going to be the big PS3 game?
Yeah.
I mean, I loved Resistance, and
Resistance is still the best-selling PS3 game, right?
Call of Duty may have beaten it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I mean, it's up there. I mean, it's probably the highest profile after Metal Gear, right?
I'm pretty stunned by the scope of what they're trying to do with the game. I mean, when you consider massive multiplayer game like with the mode we were shown, an entire co-op multiplayer campaign, an entire single-player campaign. I mean,
are people going to buy PS3s to play it?
Man,
it's probably too early to say.
I mean, if it is like a 10, if it does turn out to be like a fantastic shooter, maybe I would think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I guess the difficulty that it faces is that for whatever reason, Resistance didn't tweak people the way Halo did.
It sounds super hardcore.
I hope
you got to be really into it to get the most out of this game.
I hope they've played like Crysis multiplayer maps on the most enormous versions. I hope they played a lot of Battlefield 2's 64-player maps, watched people play them, and see how they actually do it. Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned. Also, Quake Wars, and see what their
you can have too much freedom.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many problems that happen over and over again in games of this scale, and it's like, I'm sure they're aware of these, but I mean, hopefully they're really paying close attention to it, because in my experience, those are exactly the ones that don't work. And in PC space, developers of successful multiplayer games have actually been scaling back in recent years.
So conceptually, this idea of making pockets of action on these big maps really, really, like, the concept to me says, oh, click. That's the way to fix this idea of having these big battles. But whether or not the execution or not is there, I think they still have a lot to figure out as well. I think it's way too early to judge that. For the story, I mean, did any of you guys finish Resistance? Am I the only person who finished Resistance? Holy shit, there is this really, really cool thing that happens like at the end of Resistance with who Nathan Hale leaves the end of the last battle, and there's like people that he leaves with that opens like another what the hell's going on sort of thing, and the potential for the
Can
way.
Can we just spoil it?
No, I don't want to spoil it. I really don't. You should play the first game.
Deal? I did, and I turned it off because it was boring.
Anyway,
I'll try it again.
There's another faction at the end that enters into it.
Oh man, you pissed off about 100,000 people
we went over
right
this
there.
before, and they already got pissed off. But it was like, that was my thing, is when everyone was so hyped about Resistance 2, I was like, I just assumed, because I played enough. That was the first game I got with the PS3 that I had, and it was like, everyone's talking about this, and I played it, and I was like, wow, I think they all succumbed to sort of like the mass hysteria of launch games.
It was a B+, A- sort of game. I mean,
what I played was like about C, but I didn't play that long. I probably played 3 or 4 hours or something. And so that's why I was telling John at the beginning, never say that, because everyone will tell you like, that's their excuse to tell you that, things are like incredible beyond belief.
But
like
in this
4.5 hours in.
This day and age, that's inexcusable. You got to throw something in there early.
I don't want to bother playing.
Who was it that called them the hero points or whatever it was? There was like one designer had this like, you've got to throw something at people every hour or whatever. It might have been Cliff.
Keep them hooked.
To keep people hooked, you have to have the big hero moment where you feel like you have the motivation to keep playing on. And if you save all those up to the end, you've lost half the audience.
Yeah, I really don't see. I mean, I need to do it so then I can have the full discussion with you guys. I'll borrow PS3 over the weekend and do it. But it was like the design was just so like milquetoast for all the levels I played that it didn't convince me that they have tricks up their sleeve. It's like, yes, I've seen this before. This is how like 90% of shooters are made. When you just want to make a shooter and you're making Fire Warrior, Warhammer 40K, or you're making whatever, just random.
I really, really, really enjoyed the weapons in Resistance, and there were levels that I enjoyed it, and I felt like the enemies were. It was a really well planned out dynamic between needing to use the right weapons in the right tactical situations to take out the set of enemies that you were facing. I thought that combination really worked well, and so I'm really hopeful that 2 builds on that with the multiplayer and really starts to draw some strings together out of the story, and I mean, eventually you have to start telling the story. You can't just leave it this weird. Oh my God, there's these things, and they're attacking us, and they're threatening humanity. You have to start,
explaining it.
Yeah, you have to start
just get into the Lost thing where you have to feed the beast.
Oh, I can't wait for next week. But two other games I want to ask if you played. Did you get to play Siren?
No, but you know what's really crazy about that? You know who's the producer on it?
No.
Tsubasa.
Really?
Yes, he freaking left He left Japan. He moved over here. He's gonna start producing.
Oh, cool.
Dude, he's got so much stuff.
Tsubasa. Who?
Sorry. He has always Tsubasa has always been. What was his position at Polyphony?
I don't remember.
He basically has been Gran Turismo's key liaison between the Japanese production team and North America, and he's been doing that for years and years and years. Really, really good at it, and he's a really creative guy. He's very articulate. He's really he'd always tell you he had all these ideas and thoughts. It's really cool to see him. So he's in Santa Monica.
Well, I think it's cool that they took Siren. It's a remake, but they added all these Western characters to it instead. Now, in the first game, it was just Japanese people in this town and crazy shit happens. And now this Western news team comes to report it, so you're playing as them. So
that's cool.
I think it makes it more
Siren
applicable.
was really ambitious,
right?
It was like 3-4 years ago it came out, right?
And
it had that notchy look to it, though, like where you steer it. Like it looked like it had tank controls.
Now it plays like Resident Evil 4. Now it has better graphics, and
nice.
It's coming out episodically, which I think is cool.
Oh, great! Motorstorm, did you play that? Please tell me you did.
I did, but I'm really going to withhold anything because I'll tell you this. I'll just say this for Sony. I'm really impressed that you showed the game because it was really early.
Yeah. It's this year, though, right?
It doesn't look like those screens. Those screens I saw were pretty mind-blowing.
Really? No, man, in motion, like I would say that it looked like 1 or 2 texture passes on top of the primitives. It was really early stuff to me.
So it doesn't
look
look
really early.
nearly as good as Motorstorm 1 right now.
I mean, it's.
Dude, I think it's like 30% on it or something.
No doubt it's going to look stunning.
Yeah, it's going to look stunning.
The issue is, are they going to deliver on the variety and the? I mean, did they show you? Because it's on an island this time, right?
Yeah, it was the two.
And the island very conveniently has every kind of environment you could possibly imagine on it.
Right. I think that. So they were showing the jungle areas, and for me right now, the hurdle they'll have to overcome is keeping the vegetation really lush without it becoming a real hindrance to seeing what the hell is going on in the game.
Right.
Because there were areas where
that
you're
was
going.
the problem with the mud in the first one, and it was like, okay, I get it. There's mud. Now just get it out of my face.
This is asking for the impossible, but imagine if Badlands looked that good.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Killzone 2. Anybody care about that?
We have a lot of time to talk about Killzone.
Everyone's
2
been pissed at me, but
and he's just come back from.
I was quite impressed, but maybe we'll talk about that in a future episode.
Okay, Little Big Planet.
I hear that the fire, ice, electricity were awesome.
Oh, so fun,
right?
Dude, I sat down with the controller, and the next thing I know, they're turning off the shit because it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I was playing it with Alex Evans of Media Molecule. It's any question anyone has about whether or not building stuff in the game is going to be fun will be answered the first time you start to build something, because the hardest part I think of the game will be if you have an idea, getting through to finishing your first idea, because once you start
without getting distracted,
because there's so much cool shit. Exactly. It's like, oh shit, oh man, I gotta try this. Oh, I could do this. I gotta try that. It's like
the game requires discipline.
It's so simple. It's so simple and easy to start fooling around with stuff, and so much fun to start fooling around with it. I mean,
when your little rag boy catches on fire, does he incinerate and die and scream, or what happens?
No. Well, he flames out. We did a lot of. We played with the ice a lot and electricity a lot, but so you can apply environmental effects to any surface in the game. So we were playing
And is it isolated to a specific? So I mean, are you saying, if you're saying ice, then have you defined an area as an ice area, or have you defined an object as an ice object?
So what you would do is you would make something in the environment, like a platform or a floor or a any sort of shape in the environment, block, circle, sphere, ball, whatever. Right. And then you come back with the tool and you teardropper it and you say, okay, this is now an ice covered surface. Anything that comes in contact with it, if it stays on there long enough, will freeze solid. Anything, this is now an electrified thing. If I come up and touch it, I get hit with an electrical shock.
Did they address how they're going to source levels now they're not doing a beta?
No.
Because, I mean, the original concept
would be that they would be
that
right.
you hand it out to the public. The public builds the levels, and then your prize for being a really good level designer is you're in the retail release, and they're not doing that now.
Right. No, they didn't.
Was that another one of the Phil Harrison kind of utopian video game social thing that Sony has now turned its back on?
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, the way that the game is set up is very, very friendly towards handling content. The menu screen starts off with like this big yarn globe, and the yarn globe is all the content that will ship with the game, and most of it's going to be designed by them, although I heard that there's going to be like some levels that are done by prominent game designers.
Yeah.
So that
Is that real, or is that just wishful thinking?
I've heard that within Sony Studios it'll happen, but I don't think you're going to get like Miyamoto.
Oh no, I don't think that. But I mean, the original thing was, the God of War team was going to do one, and the SOCOM team was going to do one. And,
I think
is
it's
that
real.
really going to happen?
I think it's still in the cards. Yeah.
I think that would be real.
Yeah.
I would classify that as better than 50% chance of
Okay.
happening. And then there's another planet that's basically your hard drive, and it's like all these stuff that you've downloaded or shared with friends by USB key or however you want to like share the stuff. And like so that you have these two planets you can navigate between, and you have like this cardboard spaceship that your sack dudes are in. And you can decorate the inside of the spaceship. It's like a cardboard box with some windows cut in the front. It's a freaking the game is just so like very like gets you like. It gives you that childlike vibe so quickly. It's anyway. I had a blast.
One
with it.
more. Was Pixel Junk Eden playable?
Oh, I played it for like an hour. It's fantastic.
What is it?
What is it? Okay.
I saw the video and I was like, what am I looking at? I like it, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
It is. Did you play Worms?
Yes.
Okay, so the locomotion through the level is the ninja rope out of Worms. So you're playing this thing called a grimp, which they call a grimp because you can grip and you can jump.
All right.
And so the idea is you're growing gardens in like this techno surreal landscape, right? So
With Vikings.
No Vikings.
And Viking Internet.
And Viking Internet, right? All done by the artist is out of Kyoto, the guy that they have consulting on it. I have it in the preview.
Unlike Pixel Junk Monsters, I love the art in Pixel Junk Eden.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so anyways, I liked it a lot too. And the music was really awesome. The music was really, really good if you like electro. So here's these blades. This garden that we played in, the first one has little blades of grass, and your guy, which was like the size of your pinky fingernail on the screen, could jump to any of the blades. So long as they were on the blade, they wouldn't fall. If they fell off, then you'd be penalized in time. There's a time bar which you can refill, much like you do in every Extend Extra, by collecting like little time blips out of the screen. But the main mechanic is that when you jump, if you just tap the button, then as your guy jumps out, he's bungee corded to the spot that he jumped from, and he can spin around that about 3 revolutions before that cord snaps. And while he's spinning around there, anything that he comes in contact with, he sort of collects. The object of the game being that there are these pollen balls that are floating through the garden, and as you loop around and hit them, then they explode, and the pollen will be drawn to the nearest seed. And the seed are like these hollow circle outlines, and as the seeds fill up, once they're filled up completely, then they sprout and become like the next big branching tree that you can jump up to and move through the screens.
Sounds
in that
like
way.
It would really, really help if you were really stoned.
Oh, I think it'd be awesome if you really.
It also sounds like it's kind of all physics and movement and motion, and like you're just trying to get this all to happen in one time. And
right,
yeah.
and when you're playing it in 3-player cooperative, everybody has to be trying to move together, because of course if one person's trying to pull the screen one way and one person's trying to pull the screen another way, then you're at odds with one another. And when you fall off the screen, if there's a seed on the screen that's been being filled up with pollen, then when you fall off the screen, you don't lose time. It drains all the pollen out of it.
I'm lost.
But I want to try it.
I want to try it
regardless.
It's very difficult.
You should stop explaining it, because nobody can comprehend what you're talking about.
Let me just tell you, it's
seeds and pollens and ninja ropes.
It's funny because now and then we all need this, like, to see what it's like to be a non-gamer and hear ourselves.
Hear us talk.
What the hell?
and yet it's so awesome because like the music's like perfectly
Did
in
they say
vibe with it.
when it's coming out?
End of summerish.
All right.
It was a blast. It was really fun. It was.
It sounds really interesting.
It was really fun.
I do love
It's very
that
artistic.
they're still pushing the really creative stuff on PSN. I think it's great that they're not letting up on the being experimental and being a bit daring. And
Yeah, can't wait to see Flower. Who even knows Flower?
Oh yeah, they're like, how far out there are they? Like, did you see Revealed in Shadows or Hides in Shadows? The game, which is not really a game, but it's basically an embracing of the whole European PC demo scene, which is for PSN. You're gonna be able to buy these like you know what I'm talking about, where they like just have the video reels of all the real-time rendered stuff that was like used to show off how much cool rendering you could do on PC.
Mm-hmm.
There's a PSN game coming that is that.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like showing some
Did we
crazy
miss
stuff,
anything
like
big
flying.
from Sony?
I don't know.
You didn't really want to talk about MotorStorm because it was too early. You did Little Big Planet.
Yeah,
Killzone we're not going to do right now.
that was it. Yeah, and then upstairs there was SOCOM, Resistance 2,
Anything PSP?
Killzone. Just the stuff we've already seen before. We didn't look at it any. There was a version of Buzz there for PSP. And Buzz for PS3 was there.
How are they handling Buzz multiplayer on PSP?
I don't know. I didn't pick it up.
Okay.
Buzz PS3. Did you try making your own questions?
No,
that's the thing I'm
but
most excited about.
That
That's
evidently,
gonna be
yes,
awesome.
that is
Can't
supposed to be the
wait.
cool part. Like we sat down and played a chill round of Buzz. It was fun. We had a good time. But that's supposed to be the big deal. Is you can create your own questions and share, and they're gonna be shareable over PSN or whatever. So limitless supply.
Those are going to be open to a lot of speed because it's bad enough when you play like what is it? I don't know, the Wii game show game I'm playing, but it's like there's times Smarty Pants, exactly. And there's always times when, like, I was playing with Robert Ashley, his wife came over and we're playing, and it's like where you want to contest it, and you're like, okay, we just gotta assume that whoever made this game did their research,
Yeah.
But
You're
like now
I
when you
don't think
open
that's
it
right.
up, but like when you were the one, or anyone is the one behind all the question and answers and the correct stuff, it's gonna be like bullshit. You're always gonna have some.
What color are my underpants?
I can't wait to download the Garnet. The Garnet was wrong. Multiple choice.
Oh, you could do we could do one of your theme Buzz question thing.
I don't think you have a
probably
hard
be-
drive large enough to hold all those questions.
What does Shane Bettenhausen call Tecmo's design aesthetic?
Well,
This
let's give some
guidance.
false options first. Be,
Enriching.
Creatively enriching?
Yes. All right, there you go. So when are we going to do Killzone?
Let's do it next week.
All right, there you go. All right, so we'll do that in a couple of weeks. When we come back in just a minute, we'll do news. We're going to rock through the NPDs, and we've got all kinds of other stuff, some movie things, Guitar Hero 4 details. A Shane was right to close us all out at the end, so stick around. We'll be right back with that. All right, here we go. We're back, and we have Andrew Pfister on the mic.
Hey guys, what have you been talking about?
Whoa! Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean? What have you been talking about? You've been sitting there listening the whole time.
No, I kind of zoned out after the indie discussion. I'm a little upset.
Sorry.
You didn't catch the whole Pixel Junk Eden discussion?
Oh, I zoned out on that too.
Pixel Junkie. And all right, let's get it.
That's my contribution.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
NPDs. The Wii is a fad. Okay, moving on.
I think these MPDs are a little late, but no, we should talk about them a little bit. I promised some people we would talk about these MPDs.
Well, of course, I'm making it like, dude, the Wii stomped everybody. How much longer does that? Let's just shut it all down, folks. It's just Nintendo. It's the Nintendo
Given
product
these
display.
like insane Wii numbers and the fact that Amazon is now saying that if they have, like, as an example, that if they have Wiis available, the
Yes.
buy button is only up for like 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So if you see a buy it now button on Amazon,
Buy it now.
It means it.
And buy a Wii Fit and sell it on Craigslist.
Yeah. And, well, if you want Wii Fit, go to Costco.
They have it?
They had loads of them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, people were going in there, and my wife called me and she's like, "Do we need a Wii Fit? Because there's a guy with a car with like 5 of them right now. So and there's a mountain of them at the back, so I can grab one if you want one." But so they're clearly kind of trouncing everyone on sales, and Nintendo just said that it was going to like focus on hardcore gamers again.
No, it's,
Why? You already won.
No,
why are you worrying about
I
that?
thought Nintendo was saying that no, Wii gamers are hardcore gamers because we say so.
Right,
Like,
but I think their
you know,
their marketing message is they're going to move more back towards the hardcore gamer with their marketing message. With what? I mean, what have you got coming that's even going to appeal to hardcore gamers?
They're redefining the terms.
Yeah, I think they're redefining the term, and
We won. We get to set the agenda now.
like
So just to go ahead and throw the number out there, it was an astounding NPD number of 714.
And it would have been more if it could have been.
Right. And they're still selling DSs at this clip also. I mean, DS is 414,000.
well, they just announced a new lime green one. I had to buy another one. Like,
It's like there's 2 colors, right? There's green
Dude,
and something else.
and
the
I'm out
blue-
of red.
Red, yeah.
I'm not impressed with any of the new colors yet.
The blue PSP. I have to have
You
The
mean
blue PSP, the Madden one?
Yes.
I hope it doesn't have any Madden shit on the back.
my God,
I
if
hope
it
it's
does,
just blue.
absolutely.
I hope
It'll
it has
have a Madden logo.
I hope it has John Madden's face like laser etched on the back.
I want a
Like the
green
Darth
one.
Vader one on the white
Yes.
one.
I want a green with Brett Favre on it.
Why do you curse me like that?
Sorry.
I wanted that color blue without any crap on it.
Right.
Okay,
No,
you know-
no logos, no...
Back to MPDs. I was a little surprised that Nintendo actually shipped 714,000 Wii's in the month of April because they're losing money by selling them in America. They could have made more money selling them in Europe. Or,
Because of the value of the dollar, valuation of the dollar, sure. How about this Grand Theft Auto number, Shane? What happened to I thought you said they shipped 3 times as many PS3 versions.
No, what I said was worldwide. I had heard from sources that they had planned on shipping.
I would like to bring up something that John said in a appearance maybe a few months ago, that Mario Kart was going to murder GTA.
Yeah, it didn't, did it?
No.
And it didn't happen, did
Oh
it?
yeah.
1.12 million. It didn't even beat one platform. It didn't even beat the 360's Grand Theft
When did
sales.
America come out? Was it in April?
Yeah, it was 2 days before GTA.
Oh, that's right. Of course, yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
It did quite well with.
It did quite well.
million.
I'd say that the interesting thing about the NPDs is there is a significant advantage for the 360 version over the PS3 version. I mean, for all that clamoring that
That
Sony
is
made,
only 2 days of data, though.
but of the initial adopters,
Right.
almost 1.85 to 1, almost 2 to 1 for a 360. It's a big difference. And then nothing else really sold remotely like that. We play 360.
Pokemon was surprisingly not that much.
Well, they're not real Pokemon.
Yeah,
games.
those are
I mean,
just
400,000 for a lame ass dungeon crawl game. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I think the big surprise here was that the launch of GTA 4 did not spike hardware on either PS3 nor 360, and people were surprised by that, but I'm not that surprised because I think a lot of people who really want to play GTA 4
Or already had one.
No, I think there's a huge amount of people, more people than who bought it already,
Yeah.
who want it but can't have it because it's expensive and they're kids. And
Yeah.
it's something you want. It's something you ask for Christmas for. Something you beg. Your friends have it. You ask your mom. You can't have it, but you want it, and they're gonna get it eventually, but not the
not now.
2 days it comes out.
So here are some of the NPD's general quotes, just to sort of thank you very much, David Riley, who sent over a little more information for us. As far as hardware goes, he says, it was surprising not to see bigger hardware sales for the Xbox 360 and PS3 given the release of Grand Theft Auto. However, since the game was only in the market for 5 days during this reporting period, that sales lift could very well be evident in May data. Of course, no, you don't need anybody to tell you that Grand Theft Auto, the way it's selling, could be one of the fastest selling titles in video game history. What else in here is interesting? He says, this is the first month in many that we've seen a decrease in portable hardware and software sales, but it's important to remember that this year the Easter holiday fell in March as compared to April in 2007. So,
I also think that GT5 Prologue did pretty well considering its exorbitant price tag.
it's not exorbitant.
Well, for what it
Everyone's
is.
For what it is.
Everyone's starving for anything Gran Turismo.
This is true.
Yeah. And the PSP did okay, right? I mean, it was 180 something.
192, but not like in Japan where it's ruling the roost because of the Monster Hunter kids.
Yeah.
There's an interesting point. Microsoft's rhetoric also included that Grand Theft Auto boosted live membership to over 12 million people. There's a lot of people.
Well,
online.
without specifying which of those are paid. Yeah.
Isn't it implied that it's gold?
No. Well, perhaps they want you to imply that, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Well, isn't the quote in the context of playing it online?
It is in the
which
context
case
of
it must
playing it
be
online. It
gold.
would have to be gold, but but you're both right. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that it's got to be gold memberships, right?
I wouldn't bet on that, but you can if you'd like.
Nah.
Interesting.
They've never released that number.
So there you go. There's a lot of money out there in the marketplace. One of the people who are one of the groups that aren't getting a lot of money, because this is starting to become a big question, is royalties for people like voice actor. Seth Scheisel out New York Times wrote a article on the 21st regarding the guy who did the voice, the actual guy who did the voice of Nico, and not the guy who was on the YouTube video. If you've seen the YouTube video,
That's not really him.
That's Roman.
Oh, it could be Roman then.
It is Roman.
Is it really Roman?
It is really Roman.
Okay, so anyway, all drawing attention to the plight of these guys who are getting paid, but they're not getting paid the way actors do because the Screen Actors Guild doesn't cover video
I thought
games.
it was good
so not
that
getting
he
residuals.
was the I can't remember the voice actor's name. What's his name?
Michael Hollick.
Michael Hollick was very specific that he doesn't there's no animosity towards Rockstar. They paid him what they had to because of the union. His beef is with the union that they haven't negotiated it. So it's the exact same thing as the writers' strike all over again, which means we're very likely to have an actors' strike at some point in the not too distant future, as more and more of these guys are getting. I mean, he got paid $100,000 over 15 months.
15 months.
Right. I mean, which is, I mean, I wouldn't mind $100,000 at the same time, based on the amount of money his work is generating. Yeah, he should get it.
Right.
I think he should definitely get a cut.
The revenue number so far on GTA is what, 600 million or something crazy.
Yeah, something like
then he's probably thinking maybe I should have got a royalty deal.
Yeah. Well, the big reaction is that everyone will say that the programmers don't get that yet, or the artists and the
well, that's the argument in the interactive
yet.
space. Is that who should get them? I mean, the guy that just came in and recorded the voice. Why should he get more than the guy that birthed this huge epic project?
I've been doing a lot of research into it. I might develop into a story of some sorts. But does the name Young Melee mean anything to you?
Mm-mm.
He was the voice actor for CJ. He never got a break after that. I did some research. All he has is a MySpace page, and he's still doing mixtapes. So it's interesting.
He was a DJ, right?
Yeah.
What was his DJ name?
Young Melee was his
Oh, it
DJ
was?
name, yeah.
Okay.
On TMZ last week, one of the hookers from San Andreas, she was coming out of a restaurant. That's like her credit. They were like, she was a hooker in Grand Theft Auto. They showed her in the game. There you go.
So here's another angle of approach, though, and I think what will happen is like the contract. This is the tip of the iceberg for the people who are going to ultimately be rewarded as creative talent in these games.
What this means is games are about to become even more expensive to make.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Because all these people that aren't getting paid very much and are actually helping keep the costs down, they're going to have to pay. And if GTA really did cost $100 million over the course of its development, if you've got to pay the guy that plays Nico a royalty on top of that, it's even more.
So Ezra Donner, who's a former Hollywood executive and works as a lawyer at Herrick and Feinstein in Manhattan and represents entertainment companies, says this is what drives video games is not Tracy and Hepburn. What drives it is the conception of the creative director, or in other words, what the concept, the ideas that the creative director has. The actor whose appearance or voice is used is more analogous to session music for a band. The session musicians don't get residuals on the sales of CDs; they get paid a session fee. It's not like the star quality of Tom Cruise that's getting people to buy video games.
This is true.
It's true. I don't think anyone's ever bought a game because somebody did a voice or somebody was in a game. Can you ever think of anyone where there was that much star
What about
power?
Jean Reno and Onimusha 3?
I think I bought Ripper for what's his fucking face? The Continental. I can't even say his name.
Walken.
Christopher Walken. I'm really jet lagged. Yes, Ripper Walken.
Yes, Christopher Walken.
Ripper.
All right. So anyway,
You bought it for him?
Oh yeah.
Because of his voice?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Seth always writes really good stuff.
There's something for people to talk about on the boards.
Yes.
If you've ever bought a game because of a celebrity.
Or just this entire topic in general of how this is going to work out. Seth writes really good stuff. I strongly recommend you go over to the New York Times.
He's had a good run with GTA. Both of his GTA stories have been excellent.
Shuck it out. And money is also no object for Electronic Arts, who, big surprise, extended their bid for Take-Two once again. And I think they're just going to keep on. Are they just going to keep on prolonging? How is this going to work out? Are they just going to keep prolonging it?
Well, I think it was interesting. Sam Houser said something last week, I think, where he was basically kind of like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
Which was sort of completely out of character for a pretty senior exec within 2K.
So far, they've made very little headway in their hostile takeover bid. Take-Two CEO Ben Fetcher said that the small number of shares tendered into EA's offer to date demonstrates that our stockholders agree with what our board has maintained from the beginning, that EA's proposal undervalues our company. I mean, my stance on this thing has been that EA tried too hard to get the timing right and swoop in, at the low point after they really, after Take-Two was really depleted from developing. They waited too long to do that, and now that they've waited that long, the longer they wait to up the bid, the harder they make it for themselves just to get the job done.
Because I think GTA 4 will just continue to keep selling
it's
throughout the year.
Yeah, it's
and by the end of the year, EA's going to be like, why don't we have this yet?
And not only is it going to keep selling, but then it's going to come back around and bounce again for holiday. I mean, if you want to get this deal done, you just go ahead and if they were to muscle up a couple of dollars a share, I think that they'd see this thing turn very quickly for themselves, and then they'd be able to go on their merry way. The buying continues out there in the consolidation world. Epic Games has picked up Chair Entertainment.
I'm not so sure about this one.
You might know them as the guys who developed Undertow, which was done on the Unreal Engine. So why do you not know about it?
Isn't Colonel Mustard from Advent Rising involved in this company?
What?
Isn't it? No?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the Mustard Brothers.
It's Colonel Mustard, the creator of Advent Rising.
Okay.
And did you ever play that game?
No, I didn't, but I understand it was
the ambitious Orson Scott Card trilogy, Advent
which
Rising.
fell apart. Majesco was publishing it, and then there was like all the.
I think that had as much to do with Majesco as anything.
But I don't know. I'm not sure if I would have bought that company. Having played Advent Rising.
Was it bad? I mean, I thought the tide turned against that basis of it becoming like a lot of people said it was some sort of Mormon evangelical.
Well, there's that too.
Thing, right?
There's that too, but in reality, it just wasn't that great of a game.
Okay.
Almost
It's
bankrupt to Majesco.
An odd acquisition for Epic.
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, Mark, I mean, of course he's going to be the cheerleader guy, right? But Mark says we're thrilled to bring the team into the Epic family and look forward to
I don't
working
think anyone's
with them.
ever acquired something for millions of dollars
Yeah,
and not
I'm
said
saying
that.
he's really happy about it.
Frankly, we're not that impressed. Maybe.
Frankly, we just couldn't think of anyone to buy, so we bought these guys because we thought
I
Chair
don't
was
know.
quite an interesting name.
We are okay with this acquisition.
Well,
We're going to have him make a Clue game.
Okay,
His
how
name
about
is
this?
Colonel Mustard.
Read into this then read in something into the rest of his quote here. He says, Chair's stylized approach to creating games is further enhanced by their ability to stretch our technology. Maybe he's saying that, you know what, hey, by the way, no one's ever accused Epic of doing anything other than Space Marine number 5000. Maybe this isn't maybe
Yeah,
they're trying to branch
Advent
out
Rising
there.
was a Space Marine as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
and what's Undertow?
Underwater Marine?
Underwater.
Marine.
Marine?
Marine.
Scuba. It was Seal Marine. Seal Marine. Okay. We talked about movies here a little while ago. Gore Verbinski is going to be directing the BioShock movie, so that's pretty cool, right? You guys excited about that? That's good.
You know, I like the Pirates of the Caribbean. I like the Ring, but you know, it is very Hollywood popcorn. You know, BioShock's a little more avant-garde. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Wow,
not sure.
you guys are really flat on
I'm
that.
not
I
sure.
think this
I'm
is
not
awesome.
I mean, it's a good fit in terms of making BioShock a huge property.
I'm surprised it's him. I thought it would have been a Chris Nolan or
Yeah. Something a little
someone
more
with a
artsier.
darker,
Yeah.
artsier kind of.
BioShock doesn't really have like the huge set
Well, you know
piece
who would have
action
been good? The guy, what's his name that does Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth? And,
De Toro.
yeah, his kind of whole.
How about a while we're at it? How about a Luc Besson? BioShock would be completely bizarre. Who knows what would happen?
If he brought back Lilu.
I think that I disagree with you guys. I think that there's still a lot of that. Let's bring. I think that Hollywood still feels like they want to you know tie into the video game vibe. That they want to build some connection there. And I think that something like BioShock, which has enough creative meat on it to build something interesting, gets a guy like Gore Verbinski saying, "Yeah, definitely, I would do that."
But
project."
didn't we already see all the creative meat in BioShock in the game?
Yeah.
Well, and do you want to see it turn into like a summer tentpole film with like an amusement park ride and a Burger King drink deal? I guess 'cause that's probably what you're going to get here. I mean, seriously.
I like how
It's hilarious that like Hollywood is desperately trying to embrace video games as video games are really trying to distance themselves from being video gamey. You know, it's more about the more cinematic narrative and being more creative. I mean, it seems like Hollywood's trailing like 5 years behind.
Does that mean that I should just ditch the whole Jake Gyllenhaal story?
No, let's talk about this.
So, Variety also reported this, correct? Let me make sure that I have the... no, Hollywood Reporter was reporting that for Prince of Persia Sands of Time film, Jake Gyllenhaal will be playing the role.
He'll be bringing his unique brand of blandness to the Prince of Persia franchise.
Wow. Go ahead and kill him there right now.
And is that going to be produced or directed by Bruckheimer?
Produced,
Have they said
correct?
Have they said who's directing?
Not that I
Is it
heard.
Michael Bay? I can hope so.
No, it doesn't say here.
Everything's going to explode.
I'm just a little bummed because
Have you seen his commercial?
which one?
It's like an American Express commercial or something.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
he's just blowing shit up in the background.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious.
Producer Jerry Bruckheimer and director Mike Newell of Donnie Brasco and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire fame.
Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
yeah, now you're not so hopeless, are you?
Well, his history is in like British TV dramas about like school and stuff. I'm not sure if it's a good fit. And I was happier with the earlier rumored Orlando Bloom casting. He's dreamier.
All right, then. We've got all kinds of business news here. The rest of the business news is that the lawyer who we've all agreed shall not be mentioned finds himself in...
I think he deserves to be mentioned.
He's worth
He's worth mentioning now because he's finally in trouble.
He's in a lot of trouble.
Jack Thompson in trouble.
Miami-Dade Circuit Court Judge Dava Tunis, I want to make sure, hopefully I got that right, has recommended a guilty verdict on 27 of 31 charges, including...
They're mostly misconduct charges, right?
Yeah, they're mostly misconduct charges. You're going to love this one. Knowingly making a false statement of material fact or law to a tribunal and using means that have no purpose other than to embarrass, delay, or burden a third person.
What?
I know. So
Someone should go cozy up with Jack Thompson and write a book like about just really get inside his head and do a history of like
I think
his whole.
Dennis McCauley from Game Politics should do that. He's been tracking him mostly.
Yeah.
They have a bit of a rapport, I believe.
Well, so we'll know fairly soon. The Florida Supreme Court will be starting their hearing process on June the 4th.
So I mean, is I'm not really familiar with how this process would go down, but one would assume that the outcome of this is being disbarred, right?
Right.
Yeah, these are bar challenges. And being recommended for guilty on 27 of 31 doesn't bode very well for him. He was interviewed by Mr. Thompson.
What are the four?
yeah, I wonder
what are
what the four
that he got away with?
Well, but it's not just from
Inappropriate attire.
Some of them are like from the Bully case. Some are from GTA case. It's like runs the gamut.
Yeah. And there's some stuff directed at some of the judges that he was having to go at, and.
So Thompson did say that he is going into this blind, that the judge should have issued her report at least to her findings and have made and then have had a sanction hearing. But to answer your original question, the 38-page complaint that was brought against him was brought against him by the Florida bar. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. As might be the ESA, which sees yet another member leaving in LucasArts. Now, this is obviously not as big as Activision, which was, of course, Activision.
Their statement confused the crap out of me.
Okay.
Did you put the statement in the story about how they are still going to E3 and they still completely support the ESA's mission? And it's like, well, if you completely support the ESA's mission, why are you leaving?
So they don't have to pay a fee?
So you don't have to pay your fee? I mean, is that all it's about? It's about dues?
So, yes, here's the quote. You'll love it. We can confirm that LucasArts is no longer a member of the ESA. This is LucasArts Public Relation Manager Margaret Groen. In the statement to Joystick, she says, as a company, we are still committed to bringing consumers the best interactive experience possible and support the ESA's mission in the industry. LucasArts will be participating in E3.
We support the mission in the industry. We just don't really want to be a part of it.
So
we support your club. I just don't want to be in it.
But I'll go to your parties.
I won't wear your T-shirt, but I'll come to your party.
Well, I mean, when Activision pulled out, the rumors were that it's personal. That like people don't like the new head of the ESA. They think he's ineffective.
Yep.
Well, they were challenging leadership. I mean, there was some leadership comment around this as well, wasn't there?
Oh, we don't have it, but I mean, that's definitely the rumbling I've been heard is it's all about the president. So basically, all a statement of wrong person. Let's move on, and if you don't move on, we're not going to be around.
If they keep dropping, I wonder if they'll make a change.
I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm not a big ESA follower. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but there's definitely some turmoil there. It's wrecking shit. And speaking of wrecking shit, the size limit on XNA or on Xbox Live arcade games is being raised yet again. They're blowing down the wall once again in a continuing refinement of this is the limit of what people need.
Is there a new larger memory card coming? To download these games?
You don't really. Well, it's 350 megabyte. What's the?
I thought it was 256. Or was there a bigger one?
It's 512.
Oh,
it's 512.
You can totally fit it on there.
Yeah, you can totally fit it on there. Speaking with GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft's David Edery said that Microsoft was trying to get a feel for what was the right size and listening to the needs of the customers. So they're still trying to get a feel for it. How long have they been doing it?
Makes you wonder why. I mean, how many times have you changed this now? Why have a cap?
But I like when they're raising the cap for the size, also raising the cap for the price. Did you hear
that? No, I didn't. I missed that part. They're also raising the price.
I heard they're raising the to 1,600 points for XBLA titles.
This is to ease us all
the max price, not
more
expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with John. Why do you even have a cap anymore?
Yeah.
Get rid of the cap.
People are used to downloading. I mean, they'll download gigabytes of stuff on their iPod and movies and TV shows. And why cap? I mean, it's the size of a CD that they're capping it at.
It's the arcade SKU.
Half a CD.
And actually, Shane, yes, I just found the quote. You're right. They've upped the price cap for these games to 1,600 Microsoft Space Bucks. So I mean,
how much is that? Come on, does anyone ever bother to memorize?
That is $20.
You sure? I thought it was 1,736.
Oh, maybe it is.
I have no idea.
I left my calculator at home.
Exactly. They still want you to fall into that trap, don't they? I wish they would just put the damn dollar conversion right there.
PSN. One of my favorite things about it is it just tells you how much it is in dollars and cents.
Earth dollars.
Yeah.
Seriously. Aaron, make it happen. Get the damn dollar conversion on there so I still have to stop thinking about it. The other thing they're going to do, though, so there's not going to be a spring update, but they are going to start culling underperforming Xbox Live Arcade titles from the entire server. Just, that's not performing well, it's not doing well. We're just going to get rid of it and not have it on the servers.
So if there's only one update a year, it's just the update.
Well, what?
Was there a spring and a fall, right?
Right.
So now there's just one. There's the update this fall.
That's interesting.
What's left to update?
I don't know. I mean, they can keep on adding functionality to it. I mean,
Well, aren't they completely redoing the entire user interface? Isn't that the rumor?
Well,
I hadn't heard that,
when
but they could.
I'm sure when they debut their Me competitor at E3, which I heard rumored to be called Me Too, METO.
What?
That's what I heard.
No.
I made that shit up. Isn't that bad?
That's a joke.
No, but it's rumored to exist. All right.
Well, yeah, the rumor is that Rare's doing it, right?
Me Too.
Yeah.
well, the rest of the rumors are that there's going to be an entire first-party studio out of Microsoft that's making digital content that's all available during download.
That'd be awesome.
That would be pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about wiping stuff off? I mean, is there any reason to go back and
that?
clean it?
Why-
There's no
why-
shelf space. You have
I know.
unlimited
Well, yeah,
shelf space.
Why is that a response to not doing a spring update?
I mean,
I don't see the logic. We're not
maybe-
updating the UI, so we're taking some games away from you.
But there could be games that, like, seriously are selling like one copy every 6 months or something.
Right, but if it's
You
there-
know?
What's it going to hurt?
Right, it's there. I mean, like, they're Microsoft, for God's sake.
You just create another tab that says older stuff or like hidden gems.
Yeah.
And if you organize it like that. Yeah.
Oh, this is crap.
Garage sale.
That's just crazy talk.
I think they should clearance them. If
Oh, yeah,
clearance,
say,
yeah.
Like say Cyberball sold, I don't know, 5 copies ever. Make it five
What was
points.
that really? I mean, I imagine what it is. It's probably like, what was that weird robot game with the robot on the ball that used the Unreal Engine?
Oh, yeah. I remember
The one
I
that
have no
nobody
idea.
bought. I mean,
have
I
no idea.
assume it's stuff like that they're.
Maybe
that
they could run it like a stock market where, like, like just
the
have
price
flexible
changes
pricing.
based on popularity.
Right, or maybe they even maybe it gets so low enough that they start paying you space bucks to like download the game and share it with your friends or whatever. And then you talk it up, and like then the price starts
Yeah,
going back up.
Microsoft will do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
it sounds like
Every day, right?
Yeah, kinda.
By the way, they also did confirm that while they're not doing an update, they are still working on the DRM system. That they're going to get that fixed one day. Yeah. Seeing, believing, and all that kind of stuff. The quote that they gave to Kotaku was that we're going to make a better DRM tool, quote, that will allow you to better consolidate your licenses for downloaded content to a single Xbox and allow you the freedom to be able to play your content both online and offline. Wow, what a concept. Unbelievable. And among other concepts that are sort of unbelievable, evidently Rare was considering connectivity for the upcoming Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise between the DS and the 360. Now, my question is this the fabled DS game that Rare was working on, or do you think they were working on something else also?
this was probably the fabled DS game Rare was working on, but I can't imagine Microsoft wanting to sign on as a Nintendo licensee.
Okay, well, so this was from Stephen Totillo over at MTV Multiplayer blog. He was the one who dug in and got this, and said they were wondering what kind of cross-platform gameplay would be like if you could connect the machine to the 360 version. I think it was all sounds very pie in the sky. It doesn't sound to me. The reason I ask is that what's fleshed out here doesn't sound like. I mean, like the quote says, "Well, we got it to work, but it was a little too late in the development cycle." Well, how could it be too late in the development cycle?
I don't know.
I think Rare probably wanted to do it, Microsoft didn't.
Yeah, and it would have had. I mean, the way to do it would have had to have been through Wi-Fi. So it would have had to be through Nintendo Wi-Fi connection to some kind of internet service that the Xbox 360 could also grab information from. There's probably acres and acres of red tape to get through.
Probably, yeah. You wouldn't probably have to go through Nintendo Wi-Fi if it's just like a local connection.
Yeah.
If you
But
can get,
the 360 doesn't have Wi-Fi standard either, which is
That's
an
true,
issue.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow! I mean, that makes a big
yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
bigger
I do
mess.
think that Trouble in Paradise is not a very good subtitle for Viva Pinata 2, considering the last game. The last game was a huge flop, the party game.
Doesn't bode well, does
Yeah,
it?
I think Trouble in Paradise is the most poorly chosen subtitle since the Kingdom Under Fire Red Ring of Doom or whatever it was called.
Circle of Doom.
All right. In another of the Me Too gestures, EA Sports has revealed that they have a fitness game coming. And guess what? It's going to use the balance board. It's a shocking
makes
surprise.
sense.
Is anyone remotely surprised by this at all?
Maybe it'll be a John Madden losing weight game. Like you play as
John Madden like shouting at you while you exercise.
eating a turducken while you
Yeah.
exercise. I don't know. I think it's. I'm glad other people are making games for the
I
balance.
wish I had seen Peter giving his quotes about it. He's like, it can't feel like a workout. The team has to figure out, how do I smile while I'm doing this? I want to be smiling while I'm exercising.
I mean, to their credit, EA is one of the only third parties that really taken a Nintendo controller and completely nailed it. I mean, Boomblocks is in terms of controls is so. I mean, if anyone can do a good balance board game, but what I want to see is SSX. I want to see Tony Hawk. I want to see franchises that we're used to about things that you stand on, made for a thing that you stand on.
It'd be cool, a wakeboarding game or skiing game.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Water skiing?
Yeah.
All that shit Activision was doing ages ago that nobody bought would actually work now.
Yep.
There you go. So moving right along to other odd projects. Crimson Skies, which we all loved and all kind of wondered whatever happened to. We did a lot of digging on and were able to unearth the whole gory details of it, which basically amounts to some lack of confidence, I guess. Did you read the story?
Not yet, no.
You should check it out. It's actually really good. It's Matt Leone dug into it, and it just came out of course, going down and talking to the guys with working on Dark Void. And the bottom line is that the license is now with Smith and Tinker. And
What's that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a group of the designers who left the project and are organized and have bought some of those licenses.
It was Microsoft's license, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they, in 2007, licensed Crimson Skies along with two other properties that they'd formerly worked on, which are MechWarrior and Shadowrun from Microsoft. So who knows, folks? You never know what you might see coming down the line. And the other thing you'd like to probably see coming down the line would be Beyond Good and Evil sequel, which there's been rumors that it's been under pre-production for a year. There's a Facebook group now. If you hit my Facebook, I've joined them up.
The original rumor that Beyond Good and Evil 2 or reboot was going to have Peter Jackson involved because he was like so in love with the franchise? Wasn't that like
Really?
a rumor? Like a year ago?
Because that's why he had Michel Ancel do his King Kong games.
Yeah, because he loved Beyond Good and Evil so much.
Yeah.
But presumably not because Jackson's now in the Microsoft camp.
But do you have more on the story?
No, I don't. I mean, what you got?
I maybe this was hearsay, but I heard that Michel Ancel said that a team of like 4 or 5 people is starting pre-production on something, like looking into doing a possible sequel to Beyond Good and Evil.
Well, so
like an exploratory committee.
Here's the excerpt taken from the French gaming magazine that's been translated. It says, Beyond Good and Evil 2. We've actually been working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 in pre-production for a year, and we're continuing to do so small committee research on it.
Right.
So, I mean, that jives with what you're saying about having would you say, a 2 to 4 man group on it? I
mean, I'm still kind of surprised because Beyond Good and Evil was a giant sales failure that they would commit a big team to doing this.
Yeah, I mean,
because he says the 10 to 12 people working on it.
All right, well, that's more people.
That's a lot of people.
But, critically, it did very well, but nobody bought it, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. No big surprise that the details of, we called it Guitar Hero 4, but now we know the name of it is Guitar Hero
World Tour.
Has all kinds of stuff coming. Like Nick came back from visiting for the EGM story that's going to run. Like really, really excited. I mean, he was really up for it.
I mean, they're bringing it. They're stepping up. They're
drums that look like he said they're the best. It's the best. Like he said, the drum kit is so much more sturdy and
he was
really,
raving
really,
about the build quality.
It was really into the build
quality. And has cymbals, which nobody else has.
Right. And all of the songs everything's masters. Like no covers at all.
Are we reaching saturation point on how much plastic shit can I have in my living room?
Exactly.
I am.
It's like I don't need another peripheral for playing these damn things. Can we set a standard or something?
You don't want cymbals? You want virtual cymbals?
Not really, no.
No?
I can't play the drums.
Do you think there's a chance? I mean, I've beat on the drum of having like an iTunes sort of system for this. Oh, sorry. I've come back to this idea of having like an iTunes system, like iTunes like system for this for a long time. I think that like not only is there a limit of how many plastic things you want to buy, there's a limit of how many times you just want to buy the damn game over, and I just want songs. Really, I just want songs. I don't want to buy the damn games over and over and over and over.
Make the game modular. Make me buy the core thing, and then I'll keep buying like modular add-on. Make it like Warhawk.
Yeah.
Make me keep downloading the extra packs.
They haven't announced the pricing, but it ain't going to be cheap.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's not going to be cheap.
Now the onus falls on EA and Harmonix to say, hey, what is Rock Band 2, and what do I get for my money? And like, I think they have a chance now to make it more bargain-centric. Like maybe all the songs you had in Rock Band 1 and all the ones you bought carry over into Rock Band 2.
That would be cool.
I also think there needs to be interoperability with the downloadable music and interoperability with the damn instruments. I mean, there was all that fuss with the PS3 guitars and everything. It's like there should just be standard guitar controller, standard drum controller. People should just agree. It should be like the third-party controllers.
Like standards.
There are standard buttons that, the drum on the left is the red button.
But as we've talked about in the podcast, it's getting worse. And when they're signing all these exclusivity deals with artists and labels, it's only getting worse.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, do you think they could drive people off? Do you think we get to a point where it's Guitar Hero 5 and Rock Band 3 and people are like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done with this.
Well, it's like there was that Muse pack for Guitar Hero, and my initial reaction was I was bummed that it was Guitar Hero and not Rock Band.
Right.
Because you're naturally, there's one that you invest more time time in, and you're like, well, I don't want to have to go play a different game just to play the songs that I want to play.
Well,
Exactly.
people be confused and go buy Rock Revolution instead. Right.
Maybe maybe one of the recording labels or something ought to like get that shit straight and just make iTunes. Maybe iTunes ought to make iTunes. Maybe iTunes ought to make like the same sort of. There you go.
Downloadable versions?
There's Apple's entry into video gaming right there. They should just bring iTunes into the rhythm game. Activision also had a couple of comments on the new Call of Duties and Tony Hawk. Anything interesting here? Not really.
We don't know what the comments are.
Yeah. I don't really care.
New Tony Hawk, unbelievable.
Whatever.
Shocked.
Really? Why do you think the new Tony Hawk would be unbelievable?
No, I'm being facetious.
Wasn't the story that it's getting a year off?
Well, it should be getting a year off.
Let's actually read the story, Garnet.
Hey, if I had time, it would be fantastic.
Anyway, you do the next one, and I'll read this one. We'll come back
All
to
right.
it.
The next one is Shane was right. This is like a big closer. Shane was right. BioShock really is coming to the PlayStation 3.
Shocking.
Shane was right.
Surfer Girl, wrong.
Shane was right. Shane right. Who knew?
Surfer Girl, wrong.
She was wrong in like a mean way towards
I know.
us. It's very mean.
Surfer Girl.
I wonder why everyone.
Oh my God! Can I interrupt? Because I have to. It won't be your father's Tony Hawk. Come on. People say stuff like that still?
I think there have been so many Tony Hawks that my father actually played Tony.
Yeah, if you do the math.
Yeah, it won't be. Well, you know what? What would make it not my father's Tony Hawk is if they put another developer on it.
We're reinventing Tony from the ground up, said Activision CEO Mike Griffith during the call. So, Tony himself is being reinvented. He's getting old now. For competitive reasons, we're not going to talk about it today, but we're very bullish on the kind of innovation it will bring, and it won't be your father's Tony Hawk.
It won't.
Oh, I'm sold.
It won't. I don't know. I mean, even if they were, so let's talk totally revolutionary. Even if they were to take this game away from Treyarch and do something completely like crazy, like give it to another developer.
You mean Neversoft?
I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, Neversoft. If they were to take away from because Treyarch did like one of the ports or whatever. But if they took away from Neversoft, could this game really be rebooted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
What would it take?
I mean, look at what EA did with skate. They took the skating convention and like completely rethought the way you interact with it.
Which was cool, but I mean, they're going to have a struggle redoing. They're going to have a struggle like innovating with Skate 2 now. I mean, Skate 2 is going to be a big challenge for them.
I mean, I think Tony Hawk could be much more social and online or something. Like there are things there are avenues they can go with this.
Yeah.
Maybe more kind of a hangout game.
Something.
Activision chairman Bobby Kotick stated his company's intention to triple the number of Guitar Hero SKUs in the next fiscal year.
Oh my.
Wow. Triple from now?
Triple from the
Which
current
is
2008 fiscal year.
Which is 3 SKUs this year. Well, three different games across like 10 SKUs.
But no,
That must mean
got
they've signed more bands for exclusive games then.
But I mean, they have that. They got the DS game. They've got Aerosmith.
But if he's saying SKUs, there are like 10 Guitar Hero SKUs this year.
Yeah.
If he really means like 30 different SKUs next year,
Right.
that's horrific.
That means multiple, like a version of every iteration of Guitar Hero on every platform.
Yeah.
So, Aerosmith across all of them, World Tour across all of them.
Flood has
Critical
opened.
mass, here we
Yes.
come.
They really could grind it into the ground. And that would be a shame. I mean, think about how fun and excited we were about Guitar Hero a couple of years ago, and like now
Guitar
we get.
Hero.
But you were just excited about On
The
Tour.
new,
So.
Guitar Hero, the new Tony Hawk?
What do you mean
Year
new? I
after
mean, it's
year.
almost there, right?
Yeah.
I think the bigger threat will be if even more publishers start introducing competitors, like Konami just did. Like, if say we have 5 different plastic instrument sets on the market, that's when it's even
Yeah.
scarier.
You know what I want to talk to you about Hawk? We should talk about Todd because Todd's a big Tony Hawk fan, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he would have some ideas. I mean, I think it would be. I'm not ready to write off Tony Hawk, but I think it's good that they're like parking it for a
Great,
year.
they're taking a year off.
Yeah, I think it's
which
a
is
really good idea.
Long overdue.
uncharacteristic for the current Activision regime.
Yeah.
They're also doing the Bond game based on Quantum of Solace using the Call of Duty 4 engine.
Which Simon Cox is already in love with.
Madagascar 2, Monsters vs. Aliens, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, and a sequel to Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which sold 50 billion copies or something crazy.
Yeah, it was really nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pack-in for a while.
Oh, that's
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. That's the news, and boy, I wish life was calm enough that we'd be able to read it all ahead of time. But it was a little.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Last couple of weeks have been crazy.
I need a nap.
And next week's nuts. Next week, neither Shane.
Oh,
nor I
yeah,
will be
what are
here.
we doing?
I don't know. What are we doing?
I'll just talk on a mic for 3 hours by myself.
Maybe we've never done one before. You want to do cut together a greatest hits? Maybe.
Do I?
I don't know. I'm
I
asking.
like how he says we when he
Yeah.
really means you.
Yeah. Do we as a group want you to do this for us?
How do you feel about doing a greatest hits show?
I try not
Andrew?
to think about it.
I mean, you could pull the greatest hits
That's
together.
the kind of stuff we save for Christmas break.
You're not here next week either?
No, Shane and I will be in Las
Vegas, baby.
Vegas.
Oh, you're going to Captivate.
We're going to we're going.
RE5 co-op. Can't wait.
I know, it's pretty hot. That was in our news, but I didn't.
Yeah, it was. You cut it.
I had not read it was a long preview. It was 3 pages. I wasn't ready to read
We're
it.
2 hours 20 minutes in the show.
There you go.
I want to go home.
All right, I want to go home
All right.
too. So let me get this for you. Weekend is now confirmed. Everybody have a good time. Play some Grand Theft Auto. Talk to us on boards.oneup.com. Tell Andrew how much you loved having him on the mic. I like having him on the mic.
It was all right.
It was all right. It's overrated.
I like listening.
All right. For Andrew, Shane, Sean, who's gone back to the East Bay to get some dinner. John, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
WhatTheyPlay.com.
Actually, I would very quickly. I was getting on a plane on the way to Arizona, and I ran into a guy in the line who was a big fan of One Up Yours, Brian, and was leaving to go to Hawaii to marry his girlfriend, Roxanne, and they were very nice to us in the security line, so I wanted to say hi.
Congratulations, Brian.
Congratulations.
Many years of good luck, Brian. That's it. Scarnet. We're Ghost.